Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the second half of the TWitWoW Awards 2015, the third annual TWitWoW Awards. And we got all the worst stuff out of the way in that last video. So now let's get into the good stuff and let's open up with the big one. The one that everyone's going to be talking about, match of the year. John, I'm going to let you go first on this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I didn't know how much longer I could hold this in. My match of the year, and I've been dying to give it this praise all year long. Grave Consequences, Phoenix versus Mil Muertes.
Yes.
You know what? It really says something, because let me just say this too, and I say this for a reason. Everybody knows that I am probably the biggest Johnny Mundo fan on the planet, and I defy anybody to tell me otherwise. But, and he had a
Amazing
career
match.
year this year
Yeah.
ever since I've been following him.
The
Like, this
cage
is one of,
match with Cuerno all night
yeah,
long. Ultra
yeah,
Lucha against Del Patron. Like, wow.
yeah, ever since I've really been actively following him and investing in him in 2007, this was his best year by far, and I could kiss Lucha Underground on the mouth for it.
And he was
So,
only active for 8 months. Not even.
exactly. So, it really says a lot that despite the career year that he had, in my opinion, nothing came close to me
Yeah.
for Grave Consequences, because what made this match so great was two primary reasons for me. Well, actually three. One, and I've said this so many times, revolutionized the casket match. They made
Yes.
it feel like new again.
Yep.
Amazing. Two, the story. Freaking loved the supernatural elements and the quasi love triangle, which I say quasi because we learned that it really wasn't like any genuine interest on Katrina's part. She had bigger ideas, bigger machinations at play.
Yeah.
And three, goddamn, are Phoenix and Mil Muerte so great in their roles as Technico and Rudo? Because
Yes.
Phoenix as a Technico, let me tell
Sympathetic.
you something. Yes, not sympathetic. Not only that, my friend. Not only that, I gotta tell you, as a kid, one of my favorite baby faces was Shawn Michaels, and my favorite moments of Shawn Michaels was when he seemed desperate, when he was like gushing blood and he was hanging on by a thread just to survive, but he had that will to win. And that's what I saw in Phoenix in this match. Because this boy got beat up. Like, Muertes whooped that ass.
Yeah. I mean,
I have.
really, and the crazy thing is, I even heard that they didn't really want or know that he was going to do this, but at one point, Mill bit Phoenix's head while
Yeah,
he was gushing blood. So he got like all kinds of nasty junk in his mouth. And yeah, like that's how far he went. And from what I understand, they actually didn't know he was going to do that. So that kind of caught everyone by surprise.
and then didn't he, the weapon that he was beating Phoenix with, didn't he
He
lick it?
licked it. Yeah.
He licked it. So, like, this sick motherfucker, I'm just, like, losing it over here. And you know what? Mill is a great heel, and I think he's
Yeah.
one of the best characters that Lucha Underground has. I will heap praise on that man all day long. Make no mistake about it. But you needed the babyface to do it, and I feel like Phoenix really solidified his status as Technico for life in this performance
You know,
because,
John, it's so funny to me. We give so much praise to guys like Mundo and Puma and Phoenix and Cuerno and Drago. And yet the one guy that you and I have in common for our matches of the year is Mil freaking Muertes.
yeah, the guy's a beast, dude. The guy's a freaking stud at 40. At 40, he looks to be in great shape, and he's having matches that are quite literally matches of the year
Yeah.
for us. And
Yep.
I gotta tell you, too, the image that's burned in my brain when Phoenix won, the elation on his face. You would have thought that somebody told him, like, he came out of an accident okay, or that he was going to live, or just some kind of life altering
Or that his
news.
parents didn't get on that plane that just went down.
Exactly. You know, like he was like, oh my God, I won and I've never felt more alive.
Yeah.
Like, I
Which is
loved it,
great
dude.
because the whole theme of the match was life versus death. So, of
Eh,
course, feeling that alive.
yeah, exactly. Like, he seems so grateful to take the air in his lungs. And I'm telling you, dude, the tone, the emotion, the story, the performers, the innovations, everything about this match was perfect. And if anybody had the audacity to ask me, what's Lucha Underground? First of all, I'd slap you for your ignorance. But then when I've calmed down and wanted to be a reasonable person to help the product, I would immediately show them this match.
Yeah.
Immediately. And I'd be like, this match is better than anything you've ever seen, and don't tell me otherwise. Just unbelievable. I
Let me just put it
this
this
match.
way. It's not every day, week, month, or even year that you get to say that you saw something that was the best at what it was of all time. And this was, in my opinion, the best casket match of all time. And I don't think that there's anything really even close to it.
I don't, dude. I'm gonna level with you since you like broached the subject. I've always found matches of this type to be in a way like particularly cheesy or hokey.
They're
This,
contrived.
they're contrived. This though, the atmosphere, like I took it seriously from the word go,
Yeah,
and
because they opened up with that whole de los Muertes kind of setup with the skeleton face people coming in with the casket and the dark music playing. That like they set up the atmosphere.
they set such a perfect tone and mood. And then the match after, because see, here's the thing I think I've had with other casket matches, and I think this is actually one of the little subtle things that was so brilliant about this one. In other casket matches that you watch, at least in my history, they have multiple casket teases throughout the match. The casket really didn't come into play as far as opening and getting your person inside until the finish.
Yep.
Until when the so like these guys knew it's not going to be easy to get the other guy in the casket, so I've got to beat him within an inch of his life, and I like that logic because I think in other it kind of takes me on a little bit like okay, you should know that if you really want to get him in there, you're going to have to really incapacitate him first, and Phoenix and Muertes understood that. They
And
used the
what's even
casket.
great beyond that too is that the whole match felt like Mill wasn't even interested in winning by putting Phoenix in the casket. Like he wanted to like he didn't want to put Phoenix in the casket while he was still alive and close the lid. He wanted to make sure Phoenix was dead first and then put his lifeless body in the casket to make sure that it was where it belonged.
You know, it's kind of disturbing to say that despite the career year that Muertes had as well, because 2015, especially, being the one of the biggest heels in Lucha Underground was very kind to him. But if you were to ask him, where did it all go wrong for you? What was your biggest disappointment? He'd probably say, I didn't murder Phoenix.
Yeah.
I don't have that
He
blood on my hands.
tried so many times too. Like, let's not forget that he literally powerbombed Phoenix through the ceiling of a building.
He power bombed him through a building. I'm telling you, he wants to murder that man,
He
and he's
does.
he's dissatisfied that he hasn't done it. But
I mean, he
dude,
already
like
stole his power of 1,000 lives thanks to Katrina.
exactly. Exactly. And that's another thing too. Like maybe it was just me like starting to grow out of it at the time. So maybe it was my age when I saw it. But like I love the Undertaker character to a point and everything. But the thing is, the Undertaker character and matches like the casket match, I don't think don't complement the WWE atmosphere very well.
Yeah.
Whereas Lucha Underground from the word go is about the mythos.
Yep.
It's like naturally embedded in there. So when you have this casket match and these types of characters, it just seems perfectly complementary. So to me, there's no disconnect. And when you make that a part of the world, I just think it makes experiences like this so much richer. I mean, dude, I could praise this match for days. And to think it was a casket match of all things,
Yeah.
not even a straight up wrestling match or whatever. This is a gimmick match a gimmick match I haven't even been a big fan of, but these guys, they didn't just do it right. They did it better than anyone ever has and probably ever will.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
there you go.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great pick. Do you have any runner-ups that you want to talk about? Because this is kind of a really broad category. There are a lot of matches that I know that you were at least considering and that I was considering too.
Oh, dude, I gotta tell you, at least at the beginning of 2015, I'll be honest, I kind of tampered off after a little bit keeping track. But
Yeah.
I know I originally started like keeping I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Kota Ibushi, Wrestle Kingdom 9 for the Intercontinental title. Brilliant matchup there. The Royal Rumble triple threat, Cena, Rollins, Lesnar, which I've
Yeah.
seen everywhere.
I think the one thing that I kind of wanted us to do that I just didn't feel like we would have time to do was kind of work our way out like those Chinese nesting dolls. Or Russian. Are they Chinese or Russian? I think they're Russian, aren't they?
I believe they are Russian.
Well, regardless, the best. Let's kind of like work our way out from the smallest kind of perspective. Best WWE match of the year to me was the triple threat at Rumble.
I would agree with you there. Absolutely.
If you include NXT in the scope of WWE, I think that the best match of the year becomes Sasha Becky.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about that. And I would agree. Yeah.
If we expand to only the USA, I think Grave Consequences is a great contender, and my match of the year, which I will talk about then, it would be my personal pick. If we go to the whole world, I still would stick with the Lucha Underground matches, but we also have to talk about the Wrestle Kingdom 9 match, Nakamura Ibushi, and also my my really the two matches that gave me, or really the three matches that gave me the toughest time with this, that are my runner-ups, were Timothy Thatcher versus Chris Hero, their match at Bola Night 2. I went back and watched that, and that, when we were watching that live for the first time, it was the first time that I've ever felt like I couldn't tell if a wrestling match was a shoot or not.
Right. Yeah, I think I
But
remember. Didn't you even actively comment that in our live reactions? Because I
I
remember
did.
that one before.
I did, because they were playing frickin' footsies. And for those of you that don't know what it is, or you didn't watch our PWG Bowl at Night 2 live reactions, which I would recommend it, but I'm not going to hold you to it. Um, the term footsies is something that's used in fighting game communities to refer to when people are so aware of the hitboxes and hurt boxes involved in a fighting game that they are able to keep their character just far enough away from their opponent that they can't be hit.
Oh, okay.
And Thatcher and Hero were doing that. Specifically, Hero was doing that. He was using his body and rotating it around and moving it around just like the perfect amount so that Thatcher couldn't grab any of his limbs to put him in a submission.
Yeah, I remember that. I really like that too. Very
Yeah.
methodical, very well paced,
Yeah.
kind of match between
So
those two.
that match for me might be the most underrated match of the year, which I mean it isn't because I have another pick for that, but it's one of them. And then another match on that same night, Guerrilla Warfare, Timothy Thatcher, Trevor Lee, and Andrew Everett versus Super Dragon and the Young Bucks. Oh my!
Oh yeah.
That match is. If there was an award for just the flat out most fun match of the year, that's probably it for me.
Oh, dude, that match was excellent. I
It
completely
was.
agree.
It was crazy. And I didn't even think about that when I said my three. So that's a fourth one then. The one match for New Japan that I almost made my match of the year, and I'm talking like even coming into this commentary while you were talking about your match of the year, I was thinking, do I want to give it to that? Do I want to give it to this? Do I want to give it to that? Was Tomohiro Ishii versus Hiroki Goto. Their
Ah.
G1 match to me was the New Japan's best match of the year. Now I know that's not a popular pick because Hanma Ishii was amazing and Ibushi Nakamura was amazing, and we'll talk about Tanahashi Nakamura later from the G1 Climax final. We'll talk about that actually next. But to me, my personal enjoyment that I got, the most enjoyment that I got out of a G1 match or out of a New Japan match this year was that one. It was the Ishii Goto match. I just love that because I went into that thinking like, okay, Ishii is this crazy monster, Goto's overrated, whatever, and Goto completely won me over in that match.
Yeah, Gojo really earned my respect in the course of the G1 Climax. I'm so glad we did that.
Yeah,
Besides like just going through the rigors and doing the commentary, which was so much fun in itself, but
yeah,
really getting a deeper appreciation for the New Japan roster because yeah, those guys are awesome.
yeah. And then the other match that I was really like, this one, to the point that I even have it written down on my list as my match of the year, but I'm not even going to give it to it. The Cero Miedo match between Pentagon and Vampiro. I think that match, it gets talked about an appropriate amount, so I'm not going to say it was underrated, but that match was just so good. And then the swerve after the match, just probably the best moment in wrestling this year.
Oh my goodness. Everybody that I know has been talking about that match, and it's well deserved.
Yeah,
Pentagon's such an amazing character, and as you said, the swerve at the end was great.
right,
Just everything about that was fantastic.
right. But for me personally, my match of the year, it's more about personal enjoyment than anything, right?
Right.
And the match that I enjoyed most this year, watching it live, reacting with you, just that first kind of experience where we watch it from beginning to end and we get to see everything happen as it happens. Mil Muertes, Prince Puma, Ultima Lucha, world title match.
Yes.
I wanted so badly to not give it to that match because like anytime I bring that match up, everyone's like, oh yeah, that was good. And I'm just thinking like, why does nobody else see this match as the best thing ever like I do? And at the end of the day, I just don't care anymore because I've watched that match probably 5 times now, and every single time I think, good God, that match was way too good to not get credit. And I even considered making that my underrated match of the year. And I still think it was an incredibly underrated match because of what I just explained. But to me, if we're just basing it on personal enjoyment, I don't think that there was a match that I enjoyed watching more this year than Puma Muertes. And I think a lot of it even did have to do with the fact that we were live reacting to it, because we, and me more personally, kind of created this whole inner storyline with Puma's 9 lives, right?
Right, right.
Where we were talking about how, like, every time Muertes killed him, it was like, okay, that's 1 life down. And we got to the final life, and it was the flatliner, and we thought it would be over, and he kicked out of it. I lost my mind when that happened, man. And the fact that both guys kicked out of the other guy's finisher, that could be good or bad depending on how you look at it. But then it took that middle rope flatliner from Muertes to put Puma away, and then the 5-person pose at the end with Muertes, the Disciples, and Katrina all posing with all that gold and all of the dry ice steam coming up from underneath the ring, and the temple in the background, and that being the last shot that you see before that 5-minute montage teasing season 2. Just incredible.
You know what? I'm actually so glad you picked this match because I know when we went off the air, from live reactions, like you love that match.
Yeah.
And I'm actually lumped into that category that was kind of underrating it a little bit because I liked it, but I think I was so tapped out because I peaked after the opener of part 2 of Mundo.
Yeah. Yeah. Mundo Patron, you were done.
I love though that you were kind of pulling a me for the because you were getting so into it,
I
and
was.
I loved it. Like I loved seeing you really like get so energetic and be so invested. And yet, to me, I'm glad you brought up like the kicking out of finishers can be good or bad because really I felt like Lucha Underground played it at the perfect time because it was their biggest show of the year with arguably 2 of their biggest stars in the company at that
Right.
time.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was incredibly appropriate. And, to me, looking back at the match, I'll be honest. I think if it wasn't for Cero Miedo, this match would be looked upon a lot more favorably. I just think with that match on the card, a lot of people gloss over the main event, which is a shame.
And you know
Uh,
what? That's another thing. I was even thinking about that, and it was like my whole thing was, do I really want to give my match of the year to a match that was only good because of the story and the shock value?
right.
And I that's not my style. Like, I loved the match, and I watched it back, and I know that, like, Stone Cold Steve Austin gave it all this praise, and it got Vampiro on his podcast and everything like that, and it was great. But to me, match of the year is less about story and shock value and more about just what match you enjoyed the most while you were watching it. And this, to me, comes down to that match and Ishii Goto, and I went with that match.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you had such fun and creative spots here. I mean, from the avalanche flatliner to finish it, you had Puma earlier in the matchup use Katrina as a weapon against Muertes, which I thought was great and really kind of atoned for what happened, in the opening bout of part
And
2.
the
Yeah.
crazy thing is, we never even mentioned another really strong runner up for this all night long, man.
Oh God, dude. I think, and here's the thing: people might be surprised that I didn't talk about that match at all. My thing was, even though the live reactions were crazy, and I did suspend my disbelief for just a moment. I mean, to me, grave consequences. I had no idea who was going to win. I think that actually kind of aided in the end. Whereas I knew with Puma Mundo, like Puma was the man at that point, and Mundo was still in his program with Patron.
Right,
So
but they did such an amazing job of getting you to suspend your disbelief because of frickin' Mundo. He had like a 5-1 pinfall advantage at one point.
yeah, he had a wide lead, and
Yeah.
of course made the final blow all the more gutting, but that's another story for another time.
And of
But
course,
yeah,
it was El Patron that caused it too, right?
fucking bitch bag. But yeah, you look at grave consequences, and that's why I ultimately went with that. But I mean, again with you too, though. What's funny is I'm sure people might have thought that it was going to be more Taste's time, but Puma was so convincing and so dominant as a champion. I felt like it had enough ambiguity to really leave you on the edge of your seat. Like, is Puma really going to go into the second season still the man, or is Death going to reign supreme?
Oh,
And yeah,
I was just gonna say, I remembered, I saw your top 10 list that you made on Puitov.
yeah, yeah.
And I was so confused because you agree with me that the triple threat at Rumble was the best WWE match of the year, and yet you had Cena Cesaro as your best WWE match of the year on that list.
It's funny. I always hate making lists like that because I hate taking definitive positions on those. I mean, this award show's an exception because we have a lot of time to put thought into it.
Right.
Whereas more things that are on the spot, it's kind of tough to think of things. But I mean, yeah, that triple threat was phenomenal. I
Right.
just think like that main event. I think why I like that so much was it was the
Oh,
first time in a long time
right.
you got to see what Cesaro could do. But what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, and also I saw that you had Mundo Puma on there from episode 1 of Lucha Underground, but that happened in 2014.
Ah, yeah, fair enough. Yes, I just really can't keep my dates straight between 2014 and 2015, apparently. But yeah, just yeah. I mean, I love the idea that you went with the Ultimate Lucha main event, and how fitting that the last match on
Yes.
Lucha
Yeah.
Underground season 1 would be your match of the year. So they had
Yeah.
one bullet left in the chamber, and it did it for you. It hit
It
the
did.
target.
Absolutely. All right. So now let's move on. Overrated match of the year. John, we're both going to bite some bullets on this, so I'll clamp down first. My overrated match of the year. People are going to hate me for this, especially the hardcores. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Hiroshi Tanahashi at the G1 Climax Final.
Oh boy.
I have heard so many people call this the match of the year. I've seen so many people call this the match of the year on Reddit. Reddit has a nomination system for their awards, and only the top 5 or 6, I think it is, for any given category get nominated. And this match was nominated for match of the year. To me, if I had to make a match of the year list, this wouldn't even make my top 10.
Yeah, to me, I couldn't
There
really
are
get
at
into this match at
least
all.
3 G1 Climax matches that I would have picked over this, and another 2 New Japan matches outside of the G1 Climax that I would have picked over this. And that's just looking at New Japan. That's not even looking at the entire scope of the world, including like Lucha Underground, NXT, ROH, the 1 or 2 matches that might make the list on WWE.
Right. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I feel like the reason that people pick this is because it kind of has that match of the year look to it. Like on paper, this should have been a match of the year, but to me, as good as it wasn't great. It wasn't that sort of like all encompassing, oh my God, let's go watch this again kind of match. And at the time, it might have just been because we were both just so burned out from watching every episode of G1 and commentating on it. But I still feel like Ishii Goto was better. Ishii Hanma was better. There might have been another match. I think that the tag match that preceded this match might have even been better, involving AJ Styles and Okada. And then, of course, you have Nakamura versus Ibushi from Wrestle Kingdom 9. Ishii Hanma from, I want to say, Dominion that year. There were just so many other matches in New Japan that I thought were better, and this is the one that people are picking as the match of the year contender, and it blows my mind.
To me, it's just kind of frustrating, and I guess I'll continue this kind of narrative when I get to my overrated match of the year.
Oh, and by the
But
way, my runner-up match of the year, or overrated match of the year, was Reigns Lesnar from WrestleMania 31. The only reason people really liked that was because of Rollins' cash-in.
yeah, exactly. It was all about Seth freaking Rollins there, baby. But yeah, to me, with that match, Shinsuke Nakamura and Tanahashi,
Yeah,
you knew Tanahashi was going over to me. And
yeah.
that's what I think kind of took me out of it because I felt like Nakamura had such a great story, getting injured at one point in the G1 climax and then battling back with the wins, still winning his block and going to the finals.
And
I
I
think
should be ecstatic about this match too, because I picked Tanahashi to win G1 going into the tournament.
right, yeah.
I was
And
right. It stroked my ego. I should have loved this match, but I just thought that it was a really good match, but not a great match.
yeah, and to me, it had some of those things that kind of take me out of it. Like we had, multiple kickouts of finishers,
Well,
and
and that's
all that
that's kind of
stuff.
with both of these guys though. Like Tanahashi hits 6 high fly flows in every match. Nakamura hits 5 Bomayes in every match, and
Right,
it's just kind of how these guys work.
exactly. And then you put them together, and it's like who's gonna get first? And
Yeah,
obviously, it was Nakamura. I
right.
mean, there were some good spots. Like I like that Nakamura towards the end of the tournament started introducing that armbar, if you remember.
Yeah, that was good.
I thought that was
He
really
used
cool. And
that
of
to
course,
beat Okada.
yeah, and then of course, to be fair to Tanahashi, for once,
I would
his
say that
Dragon Spear
match,
is brutal.
Nakamura Okada in G1. I feel like that was better than this.
Oh, that was a great matchup,
Yeah.
Nakamura Okada. That was brilliant. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Overrated match of the year there. It just really, again, not bad, but
No,
again,
it
as the word
wasn't bad.
implies,
That's what I'm
just
saying.
overrated.
Like it was still a really good match. I just feel like it wasn't match of the year material.
Exactly, and I'll take the reins here, kind of continue that going on. My overrated match of the year: Tanahashi versus Okada, Wrestle Kingdom 9. I think
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think, to kind of follow your line of thinking, it had the look on paper and the video package and everything. Like, they were really
And
creating an
let's
atmosphere.
just be clear, it was an amazing match, but I just feel like the last 5 minutes ruined it.
Yeah, freaking Tanahashi. I'm sorry, guys. I still haven't gotten over the Tanahashi kicked out of the Rainmaker.
Yeah,
Makes no sense to me whatsoever that he kicked out of the Rainmaker. Because to me, and it's funny because here's the thing, and this shows like it's just an interesting anecdote from an ignorant perspective. Because I had not watched New Japan. I think Ashton, you had your finger on the pulse somewhat going into this because you were the one
very,
that
very
educated me
lightly.
very, very lightly, but you were still the one that imparted the education to me because watching the video package for this match and taking in the atmosphere, I really thought they were telling the story about, Okada coming into his own, ready to take the leadership role that Tanahashi's had all this time.
Yeah,
I never even knew that he was an IWGP Heavyweight Champion. But you said like he has held the belt before, and you enlightened me of that fact because I wouldn't have known it the way that they built this matchup. And even so, knowing that, like the way they made the matchup, like, oh, this is Okada's time, and he's the future, and he's gonna do it, and Tanahashi's been the man, but I think Okada's nipping at his heels. And then you have Tanahashi go over. I just, Wrestle Kingdom 9 as a whole was an amazing show. But to me, just that finish was kind of a slap in the face. I felt like Okada should have gone over. I'm a huge Okada fan. When we do watch New Japan, I think he has a great look. I said a lot during G1 Climax that, like, when I think of a top star of any company, it has the look and the ability of an Okada. And I just think Tanahashi going over was completely the wrong move. And I think this match gets, I think just a little bit too much credit for my liking.
yeah, that's another one that I've seen people like. To me, the those two matches are the ones that I don't understand the praise for. And obviously this was a good match, but I feel like this would have been a legitimate match of the year contender if Okada would have won.
Yeah, I feel like if you just change the finish, if you just had Okada go over to really complete the story, because again, maybe I was wrong, but that just seemed like the kind of story they were telling me, and
Yeah.
then you go with that finish, it's just, I felt a disconnect, and to me, nothing against either guy. Tanahashi, this is the house that he built. I'm
Yep.
always going to respect him for the work that he put in. And Okada, I mean, just go back and listen to any New Japan commentary that we've done where Okada's on the show. You know how I feel about the guy.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, this had to do it for me. This was definitely my overrated match of the year.
All right, John, I want you to keep going. What match was your underrated match of the year?
I really like this pick because I feel like this is one of my more creative picks and one of my more thoughtful picks. I picked Tomoaki Hanma versus Tomohiro Ishii from day 16 of the G1 Climax. I love this match because it had a great story of Hanma having not won a single match yet in the G1 Climax. Not only
Oh,
of
and
that year.
17.
Oh, and 17, yeah, not only from this year but the preceding year. Like never really won a G1 Climax match, and the final win, the first win he gets is against one of his biggest rivals in Ishii. And it just took so many Kakeshi headbutts and just so much effort from Hanma because Ishii's built like a freaking brick house. And just two great elements because you've got Hanma, who's this underdog, but he, thrives on the will and the energy of the people, and that makes him kind of a powerhouse at times, with that kind of like stalling vertical suplex. And Ishii's just a killer. I mean, how many Ishii jokes do we make?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh, you don't do this
Yeah.
with Ishii, or you don't do that.
Yep.
And, they told such a great story. They put their backs into it. Hanma won, cut a very heartfelt promo after the fact, even made my icy heart kind of cool down, with that promo. So great stuff all around from this matchup. If you guys haven't seen it, again, it was really late in the G1 Climax. I would definitely go back and watch it with a fresh pair of eyes now that this year is pretty much wound down.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
this is
funny,
excellent.
John. You say this is underrated because they actually had a match earlier on in the year that got 5 stars from Meltzer.
That's right, they did. Wasn't that for the open weight championship, that
Yeah,
match?
yeah, I think it was. Yep.
Yeah, crazy. And
Yep.
here I feel like this match kind of flew under the radar. And it's not even really anybody's fault. I just think because the G1 Climax is such a massive event.
Yeah, it's so easy to overlook even amazing matches.
Yeah, completely. Because let me tell you something, dude. If it was on any other standard New Japan card, this probably would have been anybody's match of the night, I'm
Yeah.
guessing. Or like one of the top ranking matches. But because this was so late in the tournament, I
Yep.
think so many people were burned out. This
Yep.
one was bound to fly under the radar, and that's why I wanted to bring it to the forefront.
Awesome. All right. My underrated match of the year, sticking with the Lucha Underground theme. John, I know your list is very Lucha Underground heavy. I guess I didn't realize just how Lucha Underground heavy mine was because not only is this a Lucha Underground match, but our next award is also Lucha Underground related. for me at least.
Yeah.
My underrated match of the year: Prince Puma versus Hernandez for the world
Yes.
title. Dude, this was on a show that also involved Pentagon Jr. And I think that this was the same show that we had Mill versus Phoenix in that death match that involved the building powerbomb.
I'm so glad this match got your award because you've been saying for the longest time that this match is underrated by people.
Yeah.
So for it not to get your underrated match of the year award would have been a travesty
I
to me.
do have I do have some runners up. Namely my match of the year, Puma Muertes at Ultima Lucha, is also an underrated match of the year contender.
Right.
But then Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch at NXT Takeover Unstoppable is an underrated match of the year, just because everybody only cares about the Bayley matches now.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I completely agree with you there.
Yeah. So, and then obviously a bunch of the other matches that I listed that aren't in match of the year contention, I would obviously consider underrated because I see them as match of the year contenders and most people otherwise don't. So, but this match to me, Puma and Hernandez, I I think I watched this match 5 times in the week following it happening live, because this match to me is the perfect kind of underdog versus super cocky, arrogant, big man heel match.
Right.
This is like your David versus Goliath, except Goliath is smart and incredibly arrogant. So,
Yeah, Hernandez's heel work in Lucha Underground was
dude,
exceptional.
I'm so mad that he and Lucha Underground didn't have a better relationship and that he's not going to be around for season 2. I'm going to feel like something's missing because he was so freaking good in season 1. And that's not even me saying like, "Oh, I freaking love Hernandez," because I've never really been a huge fan of his. But I will not deny when somebody does good work, and his work in season 1 of Lucha Underground was exceptional.
Oh, top notch. And that's the interesting thing about wrestling because even if you're not a mark for a guy, it's interesting how people can turn around. I mean, we were just talking about New Japan a second ago. Look at Naito. Him
Yeah.
turning heel.
We'll talk about
Good
him
God.
later. We will talk
Yeah.
about him later.
But just to really illustrate the point that
Yeah.
it really shows what great writing and everything else can do for a person.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really exemplified by this match because I feel like Puma had to throw the house at Hernandez just to slow the guy down,
Yeah.
let alone beat him. Like his booking was just perfect. And again, I am so glad that that's your award recipient because anything else wouldn't have really felt right to me with how much you have gone out and really defended this match when it was appropriate to defend it and everything else. So yeah, excellent choice, dude.
All right, so let's move on then. My feud of the year. I think we might even have the same one here, but just in case we don't, I'll say mine first. My feud of the year was Mil Muertes versus Phoenix, and I don't think anything's even close.
I have it here as well. Yeah,
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
this was absolutely
It's just
phenomenal.
too good. Like, and the great thing is this feud started right before the year started because their first ever match was on Lucha Underground episode 8, which was the last Lucha Underground episode of 2014.
Right. So it ended last year and really got hot going into 2015. I mean, these guys set the world on fire with their feud. Their matches were excellent.
I
Some
think
were,
that
yeah.
in total, I think they had 5 matches because they had that first one to determine who would be 1 and who would be 20 for Aztec Warfare. Then they had the one where Phoenix won, and that was when Katrina started going after him and making out with him and stuff. Then they had Grave Consequences, and then they had the death match. So actually only four matches between these guys, but 3 of them, at least 2, probably 3 of them were incredible.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on. We talked to death about grave consequences earlier. That was my match of the year
And
earlier.
their feud's going to continue into season 2 because Phoenix has Gift of the Gods and
Yes.
Mill has the world
Yes.
title.
I love that they're really, the pacing of this feud has been great. They're not finished with it yet, because I still think Phoenix has a comeuppance to get personally, some kind of resolution on his end. Yeah, this feud was brilliant. I mean, when you have matches the caliber of Grave Consequences, and then more from a story standpoint, the death match,
Yeah.
where the infamous phrase power bomb through a freaking building, just absolutely excellent work from both these guys. Without a doubt, our feud of the year.
Yeah. I'm glad that we agreed on that too, because I can't think of anything that's anywhere close. The only other really contender to me would be Sasha and Bayley in NXT.
Right.
And that to me, like, that feud was great, but it's child's play when you compare these guys trying to actually kill each other.
Exactly.
So, all right. That being said, let's move on to storyline of the year. My storyline of the year, I did go with an NXT storyline, and I did go with the one that I was just referring to. My storyline of the year is Bayley's rise to the top of NXT's women's division. And specifically, I love this because at the beginning of the year, she was eating losses to everyone. Not really at the beginning of the year, even, because they had that fatal four-way match in February, and she was kind of the favorite going into that. Everyone thought she was going to win, and she didn't. And then after that was when she started losing to everyone. She lost to Emma. She did the job, I believe, if I remember correctly, to Carmella at one point. She went on a major losing streak and had to build herself back up. She got that wrist injury at a house show, I believe it was, in maybe Cleveland or something like that. And she had to build herself back up. And the build was great, and it all led to the crescendo at NXT Takeover Brooklyn. She beat Sasha for the title, and then you think, oh well, that's the tippy top. You're not gonna best that. It's gonna start coming downhill now. But then they go one step further, and they have a 30-minute Iron Man match to main event NXT Takeover Respect. So Bayley's rise to the top of the women's division, and then also I forgot to mention they have this Breaking Ground show, which you and I have been watching, and they really do portray Bayley as like the mama bird of the women's division. Like she's the top guy in the women's division, and she kind of has taken on a bit more of a mentor role. They even have her helping to produce shows every now and then. They're giving her so much now that the three other four horsewomen have been called up to Raw, and I think that it's a great story.
Oh, absolutely. Bayley's really taken on a real leadership role, and it's
Yeah.
great to see. And as far as that storyline, staying on task here, I think that's an excellent choice. I think they hit every note with this storyline perfectly. Bayley is such an incredible babyface. I mean, here's the thing: we were just talking in our NXT review of the whole recap show. Bayley is a person. I said it there, and I'll say it again here. That could be top babyface. Period. Not just women, not just whatever. Period. Her level of over is insanity, absolute insanity.
She
And
transcends gender.
she does. She absolutely does, without question. I felt like her storyline was phenomenal. And then to cap it off, well, I guess technically at respect with the Iron Woman match, but I was thinking more Brooklyn of her actually attaining the championship was just epic. Absolutely masterful. And then the whole post match segment with the four horsewomen and everything, it was gold. Yeah, excellent storyline. Cannot fault you for 1 second for picking that. I loved it.
So, what was your storyline of the year, John?
You know what? I have it written as Mil Muertes and Phoenix, but I think it could be more appropriately phrased as Mil Muertes' revival storyline because Phoenix was so heavily involved in that. I
I
just loved
love
it.
that. That's a great way of phrasing it so that it doesn't feel like you're just repeating a feud of the year.
Exactly. Yeah, the Mil Muertes revival storyline was fantastic.
Yeah.
You have Mil
Katrina
Muertes.
being all manipulative.
Yeah, she was the star here to me
Oh, yeah.
because she was the only one whose intentions I think were really shrouded. We didn't really know where she was coming from. And man, that anticipation, it's such a great feeling, especially in a wrestling product.
Yep.
And you have Muertes, he loses Aztec Warfare. Must have been a week or two after he does lose that match to Phoenix. Katrina's like, okay, something's wrong here. Tries to explain it to Mil. Mil grabs her by the throat, tells her, I don't need anything. Exactly, I need nothing.
Nothing!
And then Katrina's like, all right, well, I guess I have to take care of this myself again.
Yeah.
And she goes and she puts all the pieces in play. And just like what happened after the revival, I feel like too often, like in companies like WWE or whatever, they can repackage a guy, they can bring him back into the fold, and they could start out, they could really commit to it, but it's not long before that guy's right back to his old position on the card or just his old booking ways.
Yep.
With Lucha Underground, they went all the way with this. Mil became the freaking champion. So, even though my storyline of the year, I have it originally as Mil Muertes and Phoenix, I should really just put it overall as Mil Muertes' revival, because not only did he tear through Phoenix, he got the championship. He main evented the first Ultima Lucha,
Oh.
and he has just been absolutely spectacular. And just watching Katrina go to work and show her cunning and her shrewdness and just her real evil to manipulate people for a certain end was just amazing to watch. So, yeah, that's my storyline of the year.
Awesome pick. All right, John, what was your pay-per-view of the year? Now, just to clarify to everybody, we do have two separate awards here. We have pay-per-view of the year, which includes WWE's main pay-per-views, which means not including stuff like Beast in the East and the Madison Square Garden show. TNA with their pay-per-views, ROH's pay-per-views and iPay-per-views, AAA's pay-per-views, and New Japan's pay-per-views. Because these, we're being very specific here. This is pay-per-view of the year, and then after this, we're going to talk about the non-pay-per-view show of the year, which includes all television shows, live specials, etc.
Yeah, this pick might actually surprise some people because I think it would be out of left field. I picked ROH All Star Extravaganza 7 for my pay per view of the year. Because
Yeah, I honestly, when you told me that before, I was like, wow, like that did genuinely surprise me, just because I was surprised you didn't pick the same pay-per-view of the year that I picked.
Right. And when I look at pay per view of the year, I mean, obviously, of course, I look at like a really quality card, but also one that I really enjoyed like live reacting to and just consuming
Personally,
overall as a
yeah,
wrestling
yeah.
fan. And ROH All Star Extravaganza 7, I mean, you had the Kingdom finally win the tag team titles, which I feel like was long overdue, before they committed career suicide and went to TNA. So good luck with that, guys. You had Jay Lethal booked twice on the card because he was still the ROH World Television Champion and he was the current ROH World Champion. And you had that fatal four-way number one contenders match, AJ Styles, Adam Cole, Michael Elgin, and I believe it was either Moose or somebody, or no, Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong, I believe it was.
Yeah,
And, that was great. And I'm not gonna lie.
Adam
Adam
Cole.
Cole, baby. Because that heel turn, though, I loved, and I still love, if anybody couldn't tell from our last ROH live reactions most recently, laughing at Kyle O'Reilly is the best. And seeing him get screwed out of his dream that he's worked so hard for. There is nothing more pleasurable to me than watching hardworking people fail. It's amazing I'm not a part of the 1%, honestly. Kind of shocks me sometimes. But
You
just
definitely have the
seeing
right mindset for the job.
but just seeing Kyle O'Reilly put all of his trust, all of his faith in Adam Cole to be that future Shock Tag Team partner, which, way to really be ethical, Kyle. I thought you wanted to win your title on your own. And just to get kicked in the face and then quite appropriately eat a lethal injection for the 3 count. Amazing. I mean, this was the night for the Kingdom, and as a huge fan of the faction, which again is why I'm so salty that Bennett and Maria are leaving and Taven's actually injured, which really sucks.
And the
So,
fact that, I mean, I could get down with it if Maria and Bennett were leaving for NXT, but they're going to TNA.
dude, that would be a whole separate commentary. I've got to bite
That's
my tongue.
that's jumping onto a sinking ship. Like, what are you doing?
Dude, I don't know. Again, that could be a commentary in itself, so I really got to bite my tongue here. But of course, all roads lead back to Adam Cole because, as per usual, he's going to have to carry the weight. And he certainly did
And
that.
Adam Cole's back in PWG too.
Yeah, well, oh my God, that's amazing. Because I'm going to get to PWG later, too. Because
He actually joined Mount Rushmore 2.0.
Yeah, he's finally going to get to teach Roderick Strong how to be a leader, the last bitch.
Well, and that's actually, they're doing like the internal struggle there where Roddy doesn't trust Adam Cole.
Well, see, Ashton, you're right, but you're also not right because when it's a struggle, both sides have to be equal, and it's Adam Cole.
Okay, they're doing the internal domination there.
Yeah, see, there you go. It's all about language, my friend. You got to be very precise. But yeah, in all seriousness, I just love
the
this
internal
show.
Extermination.
Yeah, exactly. I just love this show as a fan. Of course, there was that controversy in that Fatal 4-Way because people, I mean, I don't know if you've heard this, Ashton. People were actually saying AJ Styles pinned Adam Cole in that match, which to me is absurd. I know. Like, do you kiss your mother with that mouth? What's wrong with you?
How
But
dare they?
I know. I mean, clearly he pinned Elgin. I don't know why everybody's trying to give Elgin a pass, but regardless.
I mean, Elgin's a jobber. He belongs in Japan. Send him back over there where he belongs.
Yeah, please. He was so good in New Japan. But yeah, I just
I'm not complimenting anyone but Adam Cole right now, John. Keep it quiet.
You're so right. You're so right. But yeah, this show was just amazing to live react to. I even said in like one of our comments in our recent ROH live reactions, I love the interplay that you and I have of you like playing it straight and me just making these grand leaps to justify Adam Cole's actions. And I feel like
that pretty much describes a Tuesday for us.
Yeah, more or less.
That's not exceptional just because of pay-per-views. That's something that always kind of exists in this relationship.
Indeed, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
This one
Yeah.
is.
this show was just amazing.
Yeah,
So
it was
yeah,
great.
definitely my pay-per-view of the year. I loved it, and this is really the night that the kingdom reigned supreme, and it was
Yep.
about damn time.
That's awesome. No surprise here. My pay per view of the year was Wrestle Kingdom 9. It was our first real, like, full on exposure to New Japan, and it was a glorious show to have that exposure with.
Oh yeah, everything about this show. I mean, the Intercontinental Championship match, which is the match that sticks out the most to me,
Yeah.
that was art. I mean,
I honestly, the matches to me that stick out the most are that and Ishii Makabe. Seeing those guys for the first time just go at each other and just dominate each other. Like, that was both of our first ever exposure to that strong style match. And it, yeah, like I said, I even said it in the commentary that we were doing for that show. No one ever forgets the first time they ever see a strong style match, and neither one of us ever will.
and you know what? I'm so glad you brought that up because I really should admit right here, while it's appropriate, that I probably committed an oversight. Not saying that that match would have gotten any awards, but if anything, I think honestly it should have been a runner-up for my underrated match of the year
Yeah,
because that being my first exposure, you knew how I felt. I raved about it
yeah,
on live reactions. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. You had Stryker and Ross on commentary, which was a surprisingly, good team. I
And
really
I
enjoyed
think the
it.
reason that worked was because Stryker got to do his thing. Like, Stryker got to be the teacher. He got to be that hardcore fan that knows what's going on in the promotion. And Ross was able to take Stryker's information, filter it, and make it Jim Ross's stuff.
Exactly. So just the perfectly balanced relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really
Those
glad
guys
you picked this
together
show.
are like Vince Russo and Vince McMahon together. Like, they're not great separate, but when you get them together, they can create magic.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad you picked this show. Amazing first exposure to New Japan and all the subsequent experiences we've had since. I think we can owe it to this show, and
And
I'm
before
very
I get
grateful for that.
crucified for saying Jim Ross isn't great, I meant specifically in 2015 when he didn't have any clue what was going on in the promotion and needed Stryker to fill him in on that stuff.
Right, right. So yeah,
Anyway,
really glad you picked that show.
yeah. Um, a non pay per view show of the year. Is there any competition here for Ultima Lucha?
Absolutely not. There better not be. I'll snuff it out. I'll snuff it out.
so yeah. I mean, if you try and tell us that a non pay per view show of the year was better than Ultima Lucha, we will literally fight you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can
I
already hear
love
it.
the NXT live specials. They were all great. My personal favorite of the year was Unstoppable. A lot of people picked Brooklyn or London, but really, as great as they all were, they weren't. I feel like even saying that they weren't as good as Ultima Lucha is still not doing a service to Ultima Lucha.
Dude, I feel like even with the shows that were great, like Brooklyn and like all those other shows, they always get even like the little things wrong here and there. Because like with Brooklyn, my problem was the card structure. Because to me, the
Yeah,
NXT Women's Championship match should have main evented.
right.
Nothing was going to top that.
Yeah,
With Ultima Lucha, I feel like even down to the card structure, they got everything right.
exactly. And they even had the cooldown match right where it needed to be.
Exactly.
Oh, it
Exactly.
was the perfect show. I am almost scared for season 2 of Lucha Underground because how are they going to top that?
Yeah, I'm scared too because they had, and I don't want to get off topic here. I'm going to bring it back. I promise. They had such a revolutionary first season
Yeah.
that to cap it off with this, I mean, you had Gift of the Gods, which was an amazing melee of just 7 people trying to kill each other just to get to that next level.
And even just within that match, you had Aerostar jumping 3 stories off of a freaking scaffold and landing on 3 people, 2 of which just
Exactly.
never let that go.
Exactly. You look at, I mean, I don't want to focus solely on part two because I mean, that's where my mind's really been fixated when we
Well,
talk
and
about
part one,
part
freaking
one.
dude, the Mac versus the Machine was amazing. The Believers Backlash match was amazing. And I'm not going to go as far as to say that the Trios Championship match itself as a whole was amazing, but the Angelico spot and the finish were both amazing.
Yeah, agreed. Like every match, in part one seemed to have something really special. And then you get to part two.
And
I
oh
mean,
my god,
obviously I could geek out about the opener of Mundo finally beating that worthless sack of crap.
there were on this one show, there were probably 3 match of the year contenders: Mundo Patron, Cero Miedo, and the championship match.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this card was stacked. Cueto wasn't lying when he said it was just going to be the best Lucha Libre and just the best wrestling that you could find anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, this was Lucha Underground saying, hey, we're here. We're not going anywhere. This is our revolution. And yes, it is a legitimate revolution because nobody, no wrestling product in North America, and I would even say New Japan doesn't do anything like this. What Lucha Underground does is so different from anything else that you and I have watched this year, and dare I say any year ever. And Ultima Lucha just exemplified that in the best possible way. No competition here for me.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah. Like if you pick one of the NXT specials as your show of the year, that's cool. It's like you won $1 million, and that's awesome, and that's great, and no one's gonna complain about that. But when you pick Ultima Lucha, that's like $1 billion.
Yes.
That's like
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with that NXT choice, and I'm not gonna try and force you to change your mind because that's a perfectly valid opinion to have. But Ultima Lucha, though,
I know. Dude, I feel bad for anybody that may have not seen this show because
oh
I
yeah, that's my thing too. Is and you say that almost implying that not a lot of people missed it, but there are so many people that haven't seen this show that watch
yeah,
WWE every week. Like,
dude, and that's kind of what bothers me because I'm really hoping, and I've been saying this a lot to you in conversation, that Lucha Underground's second season gets a wider audience.
yeah,
Because if we were to have a travesty of the year, it's Lucha Underground's lack of exposure. And I know that's to be expected when you're starting out,
yeah.
but
Well, and that's the
everybody needs
crazy
to know
thing
about
too
this.
is the El Rey Network has only been around for just over a year. Like the El Rey Network is a very new network. I think that network only started in 2014, which is the same year that Lucha Underground started.
See, I was not aware of that actually.
Yeah, the El Rey
Yeah,
Network is an incredibly new thing.
yeah, I was not aware of that at
It's like
all.
Spike TV targeted more at a Latino audience.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's
Uh,
Robert Rodriguez's brainchild, man. It's great, but it's still very new. A lot of people do not know about it, and I mean, let's be honest. I think that there's something like, um, I think it's like 700. I don't know. There's how many people are in the United States? Do you have any idea?
isn't
Population
it?
figures?
Isn't it like seven? No, not 700,000. Isn't it like?
I was
It
going to say
has to be.
700 million.
Yeah, 700 million. I feel like it's more like.
It's somewhere in it's like it's between 500 million and a billion. I don't know the number. I'm probably wrong even just by saying that and giving it that big of a cushion. But at the end of the day, there are only 40 million homes with the El Rey network.
Right. That's such a big piece of the pie missing.
And
Wow.
not only that, but like you also have to look at the fact that how many people have El Rey network but don't even know that they have it because it's just a part of a bigger cable package.
Right. Yeah. So it kind of flies under the radar.
And if I'm being really honest, because of the way that cable companies are, how many people don't have El Rey Network because El Rey Network is a part of some shitty, big, like Spanish only speaking package that it comes with?
Right. Yeah. So many things there, I think, getting in the way, and that's why I'm so glad that you and I, even if it got obnoxious to some people, just really hammered in. You need to watch this product. You
Yeah.
need to watch this show, just
Because
over
it's,
and over and over.
I've been watching wrestling for going on 20 years now, and I've never been more excited about a wrestling product than I am for Lucha Underground.
Oh yeah, I mean same here. I mean I'm getting close to that 20 years experience. I think you calculate 2002, so I'm close to like 14 years now at this point. 14, 15, that kind of area. Lucha Underground, never seen anything like it in my life. Just
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And Ultima Lucha was the show of shows for me.
It's
In
like
terms of my favorite year.
the wrestling world is the real world, and Lucha Underground is like the mutants in X-Men. Like they are the next evolution of people, and Lucha Underground is the next evolution of wrestling. People just need to wake up to it.
And you know what? That I'm so glad you said it like that because the thing about Lucha, and this will be my like little punctuation note
Let's
on
be
this.
Magneto, John. Kill everyone that doesn't watch Lucha Underground.
there you go. But what I really liked about this, and I've said this before, like on the Lucha Rewatch series, and I'm sure I've said in Luchador Spotlights. You can check all that out on the channel, by the way. I've had so much fun doing those series with
Oh
Ashton
yeah.
here. Is that it is aware that it is a wrestling product, and it realizes that because we're a wrestling product, there are certain liberties that come with that, and they get the most mileage out of them. Like it's just brilliant to see the stories that they can tell and that they're permitted to tell because it makes complete logical sense, within that universe.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, that final 5 minutes. Oh my God, just nobody knows how to build hype like Ultima Lucha. Mojo Rawley, go screw yourself. You don't even know what the word is until you've seen this product. Ultima Lucha takes the cake hands down.
All right, guys, let's move on. We have two categories for individuals. Actually, three because of females. We have Superstar of the Year, which is more WWE NXT centric. We have non WWE Wrestler of the Year, which is kind of a rest of the world award. And then we have Female Wrestler of the Year, which admittedly we do have a more limited experience on because we don't watch Shine or Shimmer or other predominantly female promotions. So we're basically just going by Lucha Underground. And these, I'm just going to list off right now the promotions that we're familiar with: AAA, New Japan, Lucha Underground, NXT, WWE, PWG, ROH. Right there, those seven.
Right.
So those are the seven promotions that we're basing our Female Wrestler of the Year on. Don't bite our heads off because we're not talking about Madison Eagles and Soraya Knight or Brittany. What's her name? The girl that played Brittany on TNA. I don't remember what her name is, but
yeah.
she was number one on PWI's Female 50, I think.
Okay.
But that's why we're not mentioning those people for Female Wrestler of the Year, so don't kill us. Superstar of the Year, I'll start this off. Speaking of getting killed by the audience, my Superstar of the Year is John Cena.
Mine too.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, mine too.
Oh, wow, I thought for sure you'd go with Rollins or Owens, but yeah, I think I really do think that you just look at John Cena's body of work this year, and not only that, but the fact that he didn't touch the world title all year. He spent the entire year elevating a mid card title, and if you would make a top 10 list of WWE matches of the year, he would be on there like 6 times.
Yeah, I mean, this is a career year for John Cena, and it's funny to put it that way because he's been here over a decade. And I feel like this is one of the best years of his career. I mean, just for the reason that you said, his U.S. title reigns alone made him the superstar of the year. The idea that he took a championship, which ironically, and I've always kind of laughed at this fact, the U.S. championship wasn't even originally a WWE property. That was WCW.
Yep.
And the idea that he elevates that championship as opposed to the Intercontinental Championship, which used to have such a rich and glorious lineage. But now, the United States Championship, I would say, is like in the top 3 most prestigious championships. And that's thanks to John Cena and the open challenges. John Cena, and it's almost like this infuriating paradox because he's this guy that everybody loves to hate, loves to just like boo and heckle and all that stuff. Everybody always says, oh, get him off my TV. So there's that guy, but he was consistently having the most intriguing and compelling segments on Monday Night Raw because you never knew who was going to answer the challenge.
And especially when we got a couple months into the reign, because with Cena, WWE's never afraid to give Cena a short reign.
Right.
So once we got a couple months into it, it was like, okay, any of these matches, he could actually lose it.
Exactly. And you thought, well, who's going to step up? And you had guys like Zayn, Cesaro,
Owens, Neville.
Yeah, Owens, Neville. I mean, Owens with that whole feud. Again, career year for John Cena, and it sounds almost blasphemous to say because the guy's been here 10 years.
And not to mention, we didn't even talk about Kane and Stardust, and I think...
Yeah.
Even didn't Zack Ryder even challenge him one time?
Yeah, Zack Ryder did.
Yeah.
King Barrett did.
Yep.
It
was an amazing year for John Cena. And like I said, if you would make a match of the year list just for WWE, I think that the triple threat is up there. His matches, both of them with Cesaro. His matches, at least 2 of the 3 that he had with Owens. The match with Neville, I think, has to be on there. The match with Zayn has to be on there. We're already up to 8, and this is all John Cena matches.
Yeah, I mean, he owned this year, at least on the WWE side of things.
And above all else, if you didn't want to give him all that credit for his matches, the fact that he was gone for 2 months, and a month into it, people were saying, God damn, I miss John Cena.
Yeah. Imagine that, people. The same people that, and I'm not even kidding, because I know, Ashton, you've seen the same thing, would go as far as to wish that he'd get in a car accident or something, like really morbid. Now changing the tune and being like, man, I wish he was on my TV. I miss those open challenges.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not give it to this man? I was giving him a lot of crap earlier on the part 1 or more negative awards for the the worst promo of the year, and to me, he deserved it. I'm always willing to call out Cena when I think he deserves it.
Yeah, it's funny. He always has 1 or 2 of those promos every year where you just feel like he goes way too far, whether it's the exploitation of the cancer kids or the just straight up burying people, like that one time when he said that Orton had a glass jaw and that kind of stuff. Like every year, it seems like he always has one or two of those promos that makes you just like really despise what he stands for. But the fact that the rest of his body of work this year made up for it too, it's just great.
And I've seen other people, like, we're not alone in this. Like, people that I follow and read about who also give their opinions on wrestling said that John Cena had a stellar year this year.
Yeah.
And, it's funny that you say, like, you were a little surprised I didn't give it to Rollins. Well, Rollins, I did consider a runner up, but I feel like his booking, John Cena had the privilege of working with some of the best talent as a mid-card. It's so weird because John Cena got to work with the talent that I felt like should have been working in that main event echelon with Rollins.
Instead of Kane.
Exactly. Instead of Kane. Because, yeah, I mean, Kane did answer the open challenge, but he only got beat after like one AA, and here
Yeah.
Kane was legitimately taking it to Seth Rollins. Like, big disconnect there.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, John Cena was clearing away my superstar of the year this year.
And John Cena was the reason Jon Stewart turned heel,
Exactly. And,
which
I
was
mean,
glorious.
to do that, man, I mean, my God.
I loved that. All right, guys, let's move on then. Non WWE Wrestler of the Year. This one is easily going to be a consensus. I know it is. John, my non WWE Wrestler of the Year, and I really couldn't even think of anybody that would challenge for this unless it would be like Tanahashi, maybe because of the G1 thing and the fact that he won at Wrestle Kingdom. Ricochet.
Yeah, I had it as Prince Puma, but, pretty much the same thing.
And the
Um,
reason that I had it as Ricochet was because then we could say, like, yeah, that includes the Prince Puma persona, but also his matches in PWG, and
yeah.
also his matches in New Japan for the junior heavyweight title. And he's also the current one half of the New Japan junior heavyweight tag team titles, or champions, with Matt Sydal.
Right, which is awesome. So Ricochet is really lighting the world on fire.
This has been easily, at least in my opinion, easily his best year. And even if you take away all those accomplishments outside of Lucha Underground, his 8-month Lucha Underground run in 2015 is also just enough to make him the superstar of the year, or the non WWE wrestler of the year. He was
You know
amazing.
what? You know what's so crazy, Ashton? I don't know if it's the mask or what. I'm gonna be that guy, but like, I think the biggest compliment I can give to Ricochet, at least for his Prince Puma persona, it just feels so distinct from the rest of his body of work. I often forget that they are the same person sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that it's because anytime you see him in PWG or New Japan, he has this really cocky vibe, and Prince Puma is so completely opposite of that. Like, yeah, Prince Puma does little cocky things here and there. Like his debut match against Mundo, he did like the Eddie Guerrero chest wiggle on his way down from the top of the steps, and I was like, oh, this guy has a little bit of arrogance to him. But for the most part, he comes off as very humble until Conan says something, and that's Conan though, not him.
Right, right.
And then like every now and then you'll see him do like a fake suicide dive, or he'll do like a backflip and pose in the ring. But that's like the extent of it, and that's Ricochet stuff. But that's also kind of worked its way into just like that's just how Puma is. Like Puma is confident, but he's not cocky. Ricochet's cocky.
And I think that's another thing that's brilliant to the character while you were talking. The way they portrayed Puma, at least at the start of the season, like wet behind the ears, this guy that needs this experienced manager. But then you realize when it's Ricochet, like Ricochet's been there and he's done it. Like
Yeah.
he's that guy that's been all over the world. So to really make it that distinct, I think just
Yep.
shows you what a phenomenal performer Ricochet is. To
He
have that
is.
kind of nuance in
And you and I
everything.
even talked about this in one of our Lucha Rewatch episodes. He's more expressive with that mask on. It's almost like he becomes a better performer, not necessarily in the ring, but as far as like facial expressions and stuff goes, with the mask on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like trying to poke fun or whatever, but you gotta wonder. Like, I wonder if Ricochet, like the person, is more shy or whatever. And maybe he gains an air of confidence under
I
the
think it
mask.
might just be a matter of feeling like he has to overdo it to compensate for the mask, and it comes off better.
Yeah, that could be. That could be. But he had a phenomenal year. I'm glad that you were more broad in your pick because, again, to be fair, I did just say Prince Puma, so my scope was purely Lucha Underground. But even that, I felt like was more than enough of a justification. I mean, he headlined the very first episode. Well, that was 2014 with Johnny Mundo. But then when you get to
Right.
2015, very first Lucha Underground champion, beat opponent after opponent. I mean, all night long. Good God, that matchup. And then just the whole Mil Muertes Ultima Lucha main event, which was your match of the year. Like, even if you wanted to take Puma by itself, like, that was enough. And then when you just broaden it to just Ricochet's whole body of work that year, yeah, definitely the non-WWE Wrestler of the Year. He is setting the world on fire, to your point right now.
All right, I think we have another consensus pick up here. Female Wrestler of the Year, Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks. I'm going to give this one to you, brother. I mean, you were the original big Sasha Banks supporter between the two of us, so
Well,
I'll let you sing her praises first.
yeah, it's crazy because I saw something in her when she turned heel. And admittedly, I never really saw much in her prior to that. But when she turned on Paige, and really the match that happened leading up to her turning on Paige, and I think this was in 2013 even, so this is 2 years ago. There was just something about that match. I felt like that was the best match in NXT's pre WWE Network history. The best women's match in NXT's pre WWE Network history.
I mean, let me just kind of take over here. I thought that match was phenomenal. But when she became the boss and really grew into the character, and it's not just me saying it because I've made the references so many times, but she became one of the best wrestlers, I'd say, in the world.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, Sasha Banks is the type of person that really makes you look at your own life because she's only 23 years old. Like,
We're
to
both
be
that.
23 and to be that good.
Yeah.
Just doing this. She's 23. She's in WWE, now main roster, which, I mean, that's not really anything to really gloat about considering all the amazing things she did in NXT. But probably the best NXT women's champion. I think Bayley can get there, but I honestly think Sasha Banks is going to go down as having the best reign. At worst, one of the best reigns, but it was just
Right.
so freaking good.
I think the only real downside to that is that it was only like I think it was only 6 months.
Yeah, and you know what? If I could get a little, well, I shouldn't say personal because it's not about me, but a little bit outside of the kayfabe context, I'm just so happy for her.
Yeah.
Because if you hear her in interviews,
Her interviews, yeah, like the Steve
oh my
Austin interview, the
god,
Sam Roberts interview, yeah, she's done a bunch, and she is a genuine. Well, first of all, she's a genuine nerd, but she's a genuine wrestling fan. She was on like Unfiltered with Renee Young, where she talked about how much she loves K-pop, like Korean music, and she's all about Japanese and Korean movies and that whole culture, and it's crazy to think that somebody who considers themselves a legitimate nerd can be this legitimately gifted at something that is a physically demanding profession.
yeah, and I just
Because
nobody does it better than Sasha Banks right
when
now.
you think nerd, you think like, well, immediately the first thing that comes to mind is glasses. And she wears glasses, but she looks adorable in glasses.
Right? Oh my god, she is super cute.
That
Like,
picture of her and Finn, I remember that one time that they posted. She looked adorable because she was wearing the glasses. But the 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 whole thing with nerds is that everyone always goes to like immediately, oh, you're a nerd, you're fat, you like to sit on your ass all day and play video games, and yet here she is doing this incredible athletic sport kind of thing where she's required to be incredibly physically fit because if she isn't, she can hurt people, you know? And
right?
the fact that she's not only doing it, but she is at the top of the world on it because really, when you have people like what was her name on the AV Club calling Sasha Banks the best
Latoya
wrestler in the
Ferguson.
world, and
Yeah.
then like you and I sit back and think about it, it's like she does have a point. I mean, she might not be like the best in the world, but she is in that conversation with your Seth Rollins, John Cena, AJ Styles, Tanahashi, Jay Lethal, Prince Puma. I think Sasha Banks belongs in the same conversation as them.
And even that, even giving her that much rope if you don't want to give her the whole thing is enough. Because again, not only 23, but let's just make the statement here, and I don't say this to be sexist, I'm saying this because it's WWE, but she is a woman.
Yeah.
And I never thought that a woman in WWE, I cannot stress that enough because I'm hoping somebody doesn't hijack my words out of context, but a woman in WWE reaching those kinds of heights would have been unprecedented to me. If you would have told me this a few years ago, I would have laughed in your face. I really would have. I
And
would have thought that
like
was a
you're
joke.
saying too, it's not even a sexist thing; it's a WWE thing because the
Yeah,
WWE is sexist. It's not even us being like, ha ha ha, ha women can't do these things. It's us being like, ha ha ha, WWE isn't gonna let a woman do these things.
and yet they did. And yet, look at how it
Well,
turned
they
out.
didn't though. They didn't. They aren't. They still have it on the main roster.
Well,
NXT
not the
did.
main roster. Yeah, NXT did. I should qualify that. NXT did, which is a.
NXT gave these women the platform, and they grabbed that platform by the balls and just killed it. They were amazing. And I'll even extend that to Charlotte because she had some amazing matches on NXT. Now, granted, the best ones were with Sasha, but
Right.
still, the four of them took over the world in 2015.
And I hate to be the dour guy because we've been so up talking about the amazingness of Sasha Banks, but how amazing Sasha Banks is, I'll be honest, I'm going to be a bit frank here, also makes me kind of bitter because you hear about Bayley and her talk about their goals and they both want to like see women main event WrestleMania and they want to have a WrestleMania match with each other. And I'm just sitting here sighing and just being like, I am so sorry. Because I can't see that happening. And it's not fair.
And it's
It's
not.
not
They
fair
they
because
really
she's
do
so good.
deserve at least an opportunity to earn that, but they're not going to get it.
And that's the problem. So I didn't mean to be negative and like and just down the plane, but I
Yeah.
say that because Sasha Banks is so freaking good. Nobody should even snicker at that idea. That's how good she is.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, this woman in 1 year set the world on fire and opened God knows how many eyes. And
They
she had
could
help.
literally just redo the Sasha Bayley story, and their match could main event a WrestleMania because the match that they had in Brooklyn could have been the main event on any card, any year, no matter what, with the appropriate amount of build. That match is a main event anywhere, and if it would have been the main event of WrestleMania 31, it would have been match of the year. People would have called it match of the year, and even now, the fact that it wasn't the main event and it was on NXT Takeover Brooklyn, people still call it the match of the year. Imagine if it was on a bigger platform.
Oh yeah, and I'll be honest. I mean, I'll say it. It certainly would have been better than the main event that we got at
Yeah,
WrestleMania 31.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I mean, Rollins was that main event. It was all about that cash in. And to me, Sasha Banks again in 1 year set the world on fire, opened up so many eyes, and as an individual, what should terrify everyone,
Is that she's 23
especially
freaking years old?
well, yeah, and I was going to say even her peers. It's not just the idea that she's 23, but what that implies because she has so many years to give that
She's
she's
still
only bound
hungry
to get
too.
better. Yeah, and she's still hungry.
Yep.
And I think she's always going to be hungry because her and people like Bayley have such I don't say ridiculous in a negative sense, but ridiculous like really like high goals for themselves
Yeah.
that that hunger's never going to be satiated.
No.
And like that is I love freaking love that passion. And when I hear Sasha Banks talk about this, talk about how long she wanted to do it and the concessions she made, excuse me. I think she even had to miss a funeral because there was a show on or she had to go train or just something big relating to a wrestling fandom that a family member that passed, she had to forego the funeral. This is a woman that knows sacrifice. This is a woman that knows passion. And this is a woman that if anybody would ever question the idea of her being in a main event at a WrestleMania or a big show, I'd pop you in the mouth. Because I don't know what else this woman has to do to
Yeah.
prove herself to anybody. And I will say it. I love Sammy and the Finns and everybody else. But I don't think anybody, when given the ball, and let me qualify that because, like you said earlier, Ashton, the main roster has not done that. But when you give her the ball, nobody hits it with the force and out of the park like Sasha Banks does.
Yeah.
Easily female wrestler of the year.
Yeah. And to me, there was a poll up on WWE.com. It was overall performer of the year, male performer of the year, female performer of the year. I think Sasha's the overall performer of the year when it comes to NXT.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because if we're just talking about that small of a sample size, and even really if you look at WWE as a whole, if we're looking at who the best performer in the entire WWE was in 2015, it comes down to Cena and Sasha, and I think I would have to give the nod to Sasha.
I would have to give the nod to Sasha too. Again, this isn't even trying to, take the piss out of Cena here. He had a great year with the U.S. title and everything.
Oh,
But
we already
Sasha,
praised Cena enough. Let's move on.
yeah, but Sasha to me had amazing stories this year. And the thing is, she carried her load consistently because she is such a phenomenal heel.
Yeah.
And
And
I
it's
wanted
it's one of those things too where a lot of people say, yeah, Sasha's good, but it's really Bayley that's the star. Whereas to me, you look at Bayley's match that she had with Charlotte, the one-on-one match that they had last year at NXT Takeover Fatal 4-Way, that match was really not that great. I mean, it was decent because of just the pure story and the emotion that Bailey emitted, or yeah, emitted. That's the right word. But the match itself was just kind of okay. Like
Exactly.
if
And you
you
know,
would look at the history of NXT Takeover women's matches that got that kind of time, and that's probably the worst of the bunch.
yeah, and dude, I gotta be honest, I'm so glad we're talking about this specifically because earlier we were just talking about how Charlotte's such an awful face, and particularly the Bellas are such awful heels. The Bellas have been here 8 years. You brag about being here 8 years. Sasha Banks being here for how long she
Three,
has?
3 years.
3 years, significantly less, by those standards, does circles around you in being a heel
Yeah.
because she will get heat out of any situation. Her heel work in NXT Takeover respect, just
Oh
amazing.
yes.
Amazing.
Using Izzy as a prop to get heat.
And then you have to also balance again in a non-kayfabe sense, which I just think Sasha the person is adorable. She gave her bouquet of flowers that she received to Izzy as an apology afterwards. How can you have any problem with this woman? She is amazing.
Yeah.
If anything, because isn't she dating El Murpho or something on because
Not
they
El Murpho, the other guy.
Mikaze, is it?
Yeah, Makazi.
Like, I hate his face because, like, dude, luckiest man on earth. So
He
Sasha
makes he
Banks.
makes her gear, so
Well, you know what? You're all right then, Mikaze. You're all right. But I gotta tell you, man, female wrestler of the year. And here's the scary thing: we may be saying her name a lot for these because I really don't know a woman that could come up. I have a few names in mind, but I don't know a woman that could come
I
up,
don't know
especially if the main roster gets
I don't know
together.
if we're going to be able to say her name for 2016, unfortunately. I
Really,
hope
here's the
we
thing.
do. I hope we do. I hope she gets the opportunity. I just don't know if she's going to get the opportunity.
Here's the thing: it all comes down to the main roster booking. It's not
Yeah.
going to be Sasha. It's not going to be
Right.
on her.
Yeah.
It's going to be all on
Yeah, I
them.
think
Yeah,
there's a very distinct possibility that our 2016 female wrestler of the year ends up being Bailey because she's the only one left in NXT.
yeah. There are three competitors that I think Sasha has for 2016, but I think she can beat them out if the main roster gets it together. So we'll
Bailey,
see.
Paige.
See, I was gonna say because when I think female wrestler of the year, I also
Oh,
count
Asuka.
NXT. I was gonna say Bailey, Asuka, and potentially Athena because when she debuts,
Oh
I have
yes.
an interesting look.
All right, yeah, we're gonna move on now. We've heaped tons of praise on Sasha, and she deserves all of it. But we need to move on. We're gonna go way longer than intended, and that's probably already gonna happen. But we don't need to make any moves. Tag team of the year. Let's talk about tag team of the year. I think it's my turn to go first. Enzo and Big Cass were my pick for tag team of the year. Um, I almost went with Team Havoc, but I feel like because of the fact that they were only around for like 7.5 months, and that one of the three people was injured for most of the year, it's just tough for me to go there. If anything, I want to give massive credit to Lucha Underground for the way that they used Team Havoc, but my tag team of the year has to go to Enzo and Cass because they've been around pretty much all year, and they've been consistently one of the most entertaining things in NXT, and they had a borderline match of the year contender with the Mechanics in London.
Yeah, that match was amazing. Enzo and Cass, let me tell you something. They are just so charismatic and so good on the mic. And that mechanics feud, because before I'm like, oh man, these guys are great. These guys are excellent. I would use the term masterful at this point because knowing that they can change the mood a little bit and create a different atmosphere from just
Yeah.
the laughs and spitting those lines and everything, Enzo and Cass are brilliant. They are absolutely brilliant. I mean, you want to talk about the Attitude Era and stuff. They have such a DX vibe about them in terms of their over and just how they can do things. Rock and Sock DX. I think these guys are going to go down in their particular era as the most beloved tag team. Again, it's so contingent on booking in this day and age, which is sad that you have to be so wary about that kind of stuff these
Yep.
days. But man, you give them the ball, much like Sasha Banks, they will run it down the field and jam it down your throat because these guys do it better than everybody. I mean, just phenomenal. It's actually incredulous when you think about their body of work that they haven't won the NXT tag team titles, but they're absolutely wonderful.
All right, let's move on. Best part timer of the
Well,
year.
I have to give my tag team of the year.
Oh wow, I'm stupid. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who was your tag team of the year, John? I'm actually really curious about this.
The New Day, baby.
Oh, of course. How could I have
The
overlooked them? Yeah, I'm like trying to figure out like what NXT team is he gonna pick, and how is it not Jordan and Gable?
Right. New Day to me, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. Anybody who's seen any segment they've done as
Yeah,
heels know that this pick is justified.
yeah,
And not only that, what's so great about these guys in a current period where so many people have dropped like flies or done other projects, New Day has maximized their minutes, to use that Jim Ross phrase that I love so much. They have become consistently the best part of the
Dude,
show. Yeah.
their promo this past Monday had me in stitches.
Kofi Kingston, we
We
will
will
fight.
fight your children.
Yes. And then Xavier Mickey, but
Big
Kofi,
rolling around on the ground laughing like he did.
exactly. And it's like, but Kofi, aren't you a dad? Yep. Oh
Exactly.
my God.
They're incredible. These guys never have to break up as far as I'm concerned. Same with Enzo and Cass, so that's something that our tag team of the year picks have in common.
This tag team of the year, and I actually would say the same for Enzo and Cass, what I'm about to say here. This tag team is of a quality that you know somebody is going to get elevated after this when they break up, which is the only
Yeah,
solace I take. Uh,
WWE. Think about it.
well, that is true, and I do have that wariness. But let me say it like this: they probably won't get elevated, but they should, because if this tag team breaks up, if Big E isn't the next WWE World Heavyweight Champion like a year or two down the line after this, that is a travesty. Because I feel like this group has done wonders for him. Xavier's amazing, and Kofi's done the best work of his career. I was always so curious for years about him turning heel, and to know that it's paid these kinds of dividends.
And I was always more of a detractor too, thinking like Kofi could never pull off a heel gimmick, and boy is he amazing at being smug.
Have you never been happier to be wrong? Like,
Yes.
it's just amazing, isn't it?
Sometimes
But
being
yeah,
wrong is a great feeling.
yeah, it just feels so right. And New Day, Tag Team of the Year, hands down. So now we can move on to Part Timer of the Year.
Part timer of the year, John, you go first.
Really easy for me, Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
I'll be kind of honest, partially because I really couldn't think of any other part timers. Brock Lesnar immediately came to my mind. And let's be honest here, even if I could think of other people like Jericho or this one or that one, nobody has the impact that Brock Lesnar does when he shows up on the scene. Nobody.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, on the main roster, I would agree with you.
yeah, I mean, you have this guy show up, you know it's going to be a noteworthy segment. I love that he terrorized Michael Cole and just the whole arena after Rollins, screwed him out of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Him destroying Rollins' car, when he got back in the title picture was great. His brawl with The Undertaker. I mean, Lesnar's worth the money he's paid. I'm still frustrated that we haven't gotten some of the dream matches. We'll probably never get Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton, and I tell you all that I made my peace with that, but I don't want to lie. And, other
Yeah.
matches too, but he is still, yeah, when he's used and he's able to be the beast. And I love when Brock Lesnar is able to talk for himself too, like in those kind of taped interviews. Because man, he just makes everything give it that air of legitimacy, that air of realism. Brock
And
Lesnar's
I mean, if we're gonna give him credit for anything, he basically got Stone Cold Steve Austin kicked off the network.
exactly, yeah,
Because that interview that Austin did with him was the last time that we saw the same format where Austin was kind of in the studio with whoever it was, and now we're just seeing these like crappy pre-taped ones from Austin's ranch with like Shawn Michaels.
exactly. So yeah, way to go there, Brock.
Brock
Always,
Lesnar kills everything.
he does, man, he does, and I love it. So Brock Lesnar, my part timer of the year.
All right, my part timer of the year, I went a little bit more kind of I guess obscure just with my thinking, not so much with the person. My part-time earlier, I actually picked Samoa Joe for my part-time earlier because I guess he's in NXT, but I don't feel like he's really a full-time member of the NXT roster. He just kind of shows up whenever he wants and challenges for the title.
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like guys like James Storm and Rhino would have fit in this category as well. I just didn't think that they were anywhere close to as impressive as Joe this year.
Yeah, you know what? I readily accept that. I think that's an excellent pick. Joe was phenomenal this year when he showed up.
I wanted him to win the title so freaking bad in
You and
London,
me
man.
both,
Oh
man.
my
You and me
god.
both.
Yeah.
I'm still disappointed about. I think that and the tag title matchup. I'm most disappointed about those outcomes. And yeah, man, to me, I really wish Joe would have gotten the strap because him being in NXT, it's like life's been breathed into him. It seems like he's like new again, and it's just been amazing. So yeah, I'm actually really glad that you thought outside the box a little bit. That's an excellent pick, my friend. No qualms here.
Awesome. Our next award is the best on-air non-wrestling talent. And to
Uh,
me, when it comes to the on-air non-wrestling talent, if you're not going to pick Paul Heyman, you've got to look to Lucha Underground. And in my
yes.
opinion, this year, the best, most interesting, most intriguing on air non wrestling talent was Katrina.
Ah, nice, nice. I gotta be honest, you swerved me a little bit there because I mean I should have seen it coming with Lucha Underground, but I thought you were gonna go somewhere else, which actually makes me kind of relieved because that makes my pick a bit distinct. But
Yeah.
yeah, Katrina was excellent.
Yeah. She is the powerhouse in a metaphorical way of the faction of death because she is the puppeteer. She's the one that is pulling all the strings and putting all of these chess pieces in motion. She's the one that made Mill as strong as he is. She is the reason the disciples of death are a thing. She feeds them their power by raising the rock in the air when they're having their matches. She's literally the direct reason that they are the trios champions now, because she was the person that won them that match. And just the whole thing with her choking Cueto out on multiple occasions, she's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely incredible is Katrina. Love her. Loved her arc in season one, her rise to power, with the faction of death.
Yep.
Just absolutely amazing. I'm going to take the reins here, kind of build on your momentum. My best on air non wrestling talent, Dario Cueto.
Yes.
This is an authority
And
figure
just to
done
be
right.
completely clear, I love your pick. And I picked Katrina because I knew what your pick was, and I wanted to change it up a little bit. So rather than us having a consensus here, we could talk about two amazing on air non wrestling talents, both in Lucha Underground. But just to be clear, Cueto is an amazing pick. And the fact that they actually brought in not somebody in the wrestling world, but an actual actor to play this guy is perfect.
Yeah, this was smart. I really should say casting, booking, whatever you want to call it, to get a guy like that for this role. To me, I think Cueto really benefits. First of all, the personality's perfect. I'm
Yep.
heavily intrigued by the backstory because, again, this is a very mythological place, the
Oh, yeah.
temple, and I think we have to keep that in mind at all times. But the big thing, and this is where I contrast him with the other authority figure being quite literally the authority. Overexposure. I don't think Cueto's overexposed in the least. I feel like whenever we see him on TV, my ears prick up, I lean in, and I give my full attention. Because he's not going to waste 15 minutes of your time. He doesn't open. I don't think he's ever really, like, opened, like, in the ring of Lucha Underground. I think the only time he ever really
Episode
did
one.
that was, yeah, episode one, I think also announcing Ultimate Lucha. So even then, it was significant.
Yeah.
He's always been, like, the more tape segments, like the cinematic segments, as we
And that's the
affectionately
thing
call
too,
them.
is when he shows up in the ring, you know shit's about to go down.
Exactly. Exactly. His presence is never wasted, I think is what I'm trying to get at. And the
That's You could say
cinematics,
that about everyone in Lucha Underground, though.
yeah, that's so true, dude. That is so, they're so good. The cinematic segments, just fantastic. I love the interplay between him and the rest of the roster. Him and Big Rick had some comedy gold this year. Really love that. Yeah, Cueto
I
is the
hope we
man.
can
He's,
finally see eye to eye.
and then Rick just looks at him like, give me the money. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm getting mugged. But, just
And then he's
Cueto's
just like,
amazing.
I'm glad that we finally see eye to eye.
Cueto is what an authority figure should be, and I'm just so glad that you and I could give two, as you said, phenomenal, just amazing people their due for this award.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John, who is your underutilized talent of the year? And this is specifically people or somebody who is underutilized by the company that they work for.
My pick was Damian Sandow.
Ah,
I'll be honest.
the old
I think
Damien Mizdow gimmick didn't last very long.
no, it didn't. I'll be honest. I'd be lying if I said I no longer miss the intellectual savior gimmick. I mean, because that has been and always will be my dream gimmick, and I loved Sandow's portrayal and his success. But the reason why I picked him as underutilized talent of the year, this guy proved with the Mizdow gimmick, and when he was going through his whole phase of doing a different thing every week, that he's one of those guys. He's willing to, have a laugh at himself and put his back into everything. And that's advice that William Regal always gives people. William Regal always tells people, whatever you're given, accept it and make the best of it, even if it's crap. I mean, and that was the guy that on a Las Vegas Raw came out as one of the showgirls, like, well, Regal knows how to do business, and I feel like Sandow kind of continues that tradition. You give this guy anything, he's gonna do it, and he's gonna do it better than anybody. He's gonna knock it out of the park, to use that phrase again. And I feel like it's a shame you have a 3-hour show and guys like Sandow, I mean, a runner up would have been Curtis Axel, guys like that can't seem to find any TV time. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And I'm just really sad that a guy that good is being used so little. So yeah, Damian Sandow, once very promising career, I think a few years ago on this award show, has been relegated to this. So underutilized talent of the year for sure.
Since you did mention Curtis Axel as a runner-up, my runner-up for underutilized talent of the year is actually um, Tommaso Ciampa.
Ah, nice.
Specifically before he got signed to NXT when he was in ROH, because if there is one negative thing that I can say about ROH, and there are a few, I'm not going to try and make it seem like ROH is perfect outside of this. It's that they desperately need to make a star. And in my opinion, if they were going to make a star that was a homegrown talent, it came down to two guys, Mike Bennett and Tommaso Ciampa, and they completely squandered both of them.
Yeah, they did. Man, that's sad.
And now Ciampa's going to NXT, which is a good decision, and Bennett's going to TNA, which is an awful decision. But they're both not going to be in ROH anymore. And at this point, ROH is really their last hopes are Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And I think they might try and make a star out of Adam Cole, but they've been dangling the Kyle O'Reilly World Championship run thread in front of our faces for seems like years now. And it just seems at this point like they're not going to pull the trigger by the time O'Reilly gets scooped up by NXT.
Right. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there, dude. The trajectory just isn't really looking there. But you said Champa was your runner up, so who is your underutilized talent of the year?
I did this last year too. Last year, my underutilized talent of the year was NXT call-ups, and I just kind of did it in general, referring to like Bo Dallas and guys like that. This year, my underutilized talent of the year is the same thing. It's NXT call-ups, but I have a different roster of people that I can mention now. Most specifically, I'm referring to Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Neville, and Kalisto.
Yes. Yes. I think especially Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks.
Right,
Uh,
and the thing with me, Kalisto, I mean, you lost Rey Mysterio, and what was your answer? Oh, let's sign Alberto Del Bitchbag to a contract. When you already have literally Rey Mysterio 2.0 on your roster with
uh,
arguably more impressive athletic feats in his arsenal, ready to go.
yeah, I know, dude. I think they only now figured it out, but God, what
And
did it take long to see the light bulb go
no,
off?
they haven't. They haven't figured it out. Just because he won a match against a member of the New Day doesn't mean that they figured it out. I think, like, the craziest thing too is that not only is Kalisto amazing in the ring and incredibly entertaining, the dude wears a mask. You brought in Alberto Del Rio, who doesn't even wear a mask. Isn't the whole point of having that Hispanic luchador character that appeals to that Mexican audience to sell masks?
Yeah. I mean, you talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Like Kalisto, you might as well be wearing a neon sign saying, "I'm here, please use me."
Yeah,
And again, I feel like they take two steps forward, one step back, because he did advance in that WWE World Heavyweight Championship tournament by beating Ryback in that
yeah. And that
upset.
was a really good match too, Kalisto versus Ryback. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people want to say Ryback's a terrible worker. Well, if you believe that, look at what Kalisto pulled out of him.
Exactly. You know, I actually thought Ryback was going to turn heel after the match there because his work it was just ragdolling Kalisto.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I agree with you there. Neville, here's the thing with Neville and why I'm glad you put him there. Neville, to me, if we had a disappointment of the year, he would have been my recipient because it's not even anything to do with Neville. I felt like he started out so hot in the year, you know, having those competitive matches with Seth Rollins, answering the U.S. Open Challenge, and actually having seen a beat until Rusev interfered, and then he just completely tapered off. And like that was so disheartening to me. So yeah, I don't even blame you for that runner up either because like what happened? You know, like you were on such a good trajectory with him and then just completely went to the wayside. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and with Neville, if you need any further proof that the crowd is ready for him to get a push, he won Breakout Star of the Year over Kevin freaking Owens.
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing, is the WWE's Slammy Awards are a legitimate fan vote. Like, if they wanted to manipulate that to suit their storylines, Owens would have won. They had Ziggler out there presenting because they wanted the Owens Ziggler confrontation, and Neville won.
Yeah. Yeah, which just Owen snapped about, and you know he does because he always does like that heel trash talk in the middle of all his matches. Well, with Neville, it's I'm superstar of the year, so yeah, really sticking in his craw there.
Yeah,
But
and that's the thing. Like, Neville, it's like he doesn't even need to try. His in-ring ability connects with the crowd. Like, this guy is special in the ring. Like, Kalisto's great. And to me, he fits that perfect role of that Rey Mysterio underdog type guy that they could run and just make millions of dollars with. And there's no question. There's something more with Neville. Neville has something more, especially with his in-ring. And I also think that the fact that he's kind of goofy looking, people are drawn to that because it's relatable. Daniel Bryan's kind of goofy looking. It never stopped him from getting more over than anyone ever.
Exactly. No, the pieces are all there for Neville. It's just WWE's got to assemble the picture. And then when you talk about Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, I
Oh
mean,
my
come
god.
on.
Yeah,
Come
and
on.
especially Sasha, because like with Becky, they never really utilized her to the ultimate level that they could have even in NXT. Like, they used her, and she had some great matches, specifically the Fatal 4-Way and then the match with Sasha at Unstoppable, but they never really took her to the level that she could have reached in NXT. That's I think that's my biggest problem, is I feel like she got called up early. I feel like she still had a lot more left to do in NXT. And if she and Sasha would have main evented Brooklyn over Sasha and Bayley, I would not have complained one bit.
Yeah, you know what? I think a lot of people are starting to come around to your sentiments about Becky Lynch being called up a bit too early, because I think I've heard other people express the same thing. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people felt like she was primed for an NXT
Well,
Women's Championship
if we're
run.
being real, I feel like the only person out of that group that was actually ready for a main roster spotlight was Sasha.
Exactly.
Because Charlotte wasn't, and even to this day, she's the frickin' Divas champion and she's still not ready.
Yeah, yeah, and we've talked about that at length.
Yeah,
And to me, Sasha Banks is the complete package.
she is.
She's part of the best faction. I know Naomi and Tamina aren't the greatest, but I feel like as a trio, they
Yeah, I
can
mean,
be
we even
really good.
refer to Team Bad as Sasha and her burden.
Exactly. But I feel like when they're allowed to let their hair down and be themselves, like their interactions with the New Day, their stuff on social media, they're
I mean, that's
great.
fun and it's entertaining, but it's New Day light and it doesn't progress any storylines or make
Right.
Sasha look like the legitimate competitor that she is.
Yeah, I think,
Like, to me, I want the boss. I don't want, Sasha Banks who twerks with the New Day.
exactly. I think as much as I liked factional warfare to start as an
Yeah,
introduction for these women, I was so eager for them to go out on their own, and especially Sasha, of course. And it frustrates me that she still hasn't.
she's the
Because
only one. She's the only one of the three NXT call-ups that's still with her original team.
yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Like, I really would have thought that by now, in fact, even earlier, because I thought they were laying the groundwork for it, we would have gotten that Sasha Banks Naomi feud.
Sasha Banks is the Dean Ambrose of the Four Horsewomen.
Oh my god, that's
most
horrifying.
most talented, best talker, best facial expressions, best character, and yet she's the only one that hasn't really been given a real push yet.
Unbelievable. But yeah, I like that you did it again this year because it fits. It's just a new batch of
I'm gonna
people.
keep doing it until they figure it out. Until
Good
they just
luck.
have a year where nobody gets called up, or they have one or two people that get called up and then they use them properly, or they just don't screw everybody up.
Yeah, well,
Because there was one call up this year I felt like that worked, and that was Owens, and even that has cooled down quite a bit.
yeah, much to my chagrin, as
Yeah,
I've talked
and
to you about
at least
personally.
like at least last year we had Rusev to say like, oh my god, this NXT call up was really good, and Bray Wyatt. I think that might have been 2013. I don't remember, but still, we had more than one example. This year we have one example, and it's Kevin Owens, and he's also the type of performer where it doesn't matter what you give him, he's going to turn it into gold.
Exactly, because Kevin Owens is amazing, as is Sasha Banks, which is why she deserves a fair shake, and I'm just waiting
Right.
for her to get it.
And as much as I dislike the fact that they have her out there twerking with the New Day, she still makes it entertaining. So she and Kevin Owens are kind of in that same category. The difference is Owens gets 15, 20 minutes of TV time every week. Sasha's lucky to get 5.
Exactly. And that's another big problem, too, because people that may hear guys like us or other commentators or whatever source say that, oh, Sasha's this great heel, she's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And then you only
Yeah.
see her in like 5 minutes, not even
And
every week.
and
Uh,
Sasha also, I think it's worth noting, has most of her TV time on SmackDown.
right. Yeah. And how many people gloss over that show? I mean, come on now. So,
You'd be hard pressed to find people that watch the whole thing from beginning to end without doing anything else.
exactly. So Sasha's really getting the shaft here. All of these people are, which is why it's quite apropos that that was your pick.
Underutilized talent of the year. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that being said, let's move on to underrated talent of the year. Now, this is specifically referring to people that the fans don't give enough credit to. And my pick for underrated talent of the year was going to be, and I got to admit, Ty Dillinger, but I've noticed a lot more people talking about how good he is, so I don't want to say him. My underrated talent of the year, Blake and Murphy, man.
Yes, this is actually a really excellent pick because I still see these guys get hate.
Dude, these guys are literally my favorite tag team in NXT, and because of that, other than the New Day, my favorite tag team in the WWE. And it's not even just because, like, oh, I like them and no one else does, so that makes me like them even more. No, it's because they're amazing. Whether it's in the ring, their tag team heel tactics, they're cutting off of the ring, all of that stuff that you are a major mark for, plus their personalities. They are such goofballs. And especially Blake with his freaking goofy hair that he does, where he does like the French braids and he dyes it, bleaches it blonde and stuff and all that stuff. Buddy Murphy is a hoss. Let me just put it that way. That dude is a workhorse, and I cannot wait for his singles run. But I say I can't wait for it, and yet at the same time, I am willing to wait for it because the longer that we go without him getting a singles run just means more Blake and Murphy as a tag team.
Exactly, dude. I'm so glad you picked these guys because I've been mentioning Latoya Ferguson, AV Club NXT reviews. She used to
She
always,
hates them.
she hates these guys. Doesn't think they have any personality. She thinks the best thing about them is, I think, the ring gear or whatever. And I'm
Dude,
just like, are
I
we
think that
watching the same
what
people?
people don't get about Blake and Murphy, they anybody that says that they don't have a character is not paying attention because to me, the whole character is just imagine these guys are 30 something year old lame ass fathers who want to fit in with the fraternity guys.
Exactly. And I mean, come on now. You have Wesley Blake doing the things in there, knows how to get heat, even, the little things like just changing his appearance. Buddy Murphy is a stud.
He
I think a
is.
single star dying to come
And
out.
if you didn't believe that in a wrestling context, the fact that he's dating Alexa Bliss at the moment will tell you.
Exactly. And you know what? That's exactly it. Because the day Buddy Murphy gets his singles push, which I do think will happen, I think he
Oh,
should turn on Blake, put the boots to him. Alexa Bliss goes with the winner, of course, that being Murphy, and those two light up the world.
oh my
Nothing
god.
against Blake, but you got to be honest about who has the potential here. And to me, that's Murphy, especially with a valet like Alexa Bliss, who's done phenomenal heel work in her own right, to be fair, this
Yeah,
year.
to me, Blake is like that kind of faceless like Ascension member. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas Murphy is like a bigger Christian to me.
Exactly. And I don't know why these guys get all their hate either, because between their in ring, I mean, their tag team psychology is next
Oh,
level.
so good. Like maybe not quite on the same level as the mechanics, but damn close.
Oh, yeah. Dude, they are a solid second. I don't even think anybody really competes in that second place because I love Jordan and Gable, but, in terms of tag team psychology, knowing to cut the ring in half, knowing how to be a tag team,
Yeah.
Blake and Murphy and the mechanics are tops. And I would even say Blake and Murphy to a degree. I mean, I
And I
love now
even
they
love Blake and Murphy's entrance, like the way that they come out and then they kind of hold their arms out and Alexa Bliss kind of bursts through like a freaking turnstile, and then the way the one dude gets up on the ring apron and the other one slides through underneath the corner of the ropes and sits there. Like I love the kind of routine that they have for their entrance, and like people really appreciate Enzo and Cass's entrance routine because they have the mic and they do all the talking. I love Blake and Murphy's entrance routine because it's something that I can kind of I don't want to say relate to, but I can kind of foresee it. Like as it's happening, I'm like, yep, okay, now slide under the ropes, and yep, there we go, awesome, yeah, these guys are on point.
And let me just say too, because I don't want to take anything away from Blurfexa, because I mean obviously they're amazing. But even before Alexa Bliss came into the picture, these guys were not getting enough credit even then. Because
Especially then, especially because Alexa Bliss is the only reason they ever get credit nowadays. And if
yeah,
anything, it's a bad thing because people only want to give credit to her and not the two guys.
exactly, because even like before she came in, I loved how they used to leapfrog over each other as they entered the ring. Because
Yes,
like
that was
you learn
great.
You learn on breaking ground because I've seen it, particularly with the women. Like when you make an entrance, you've got to make the impression. You've got to use everything. Pay attention to all the cameras, use the entire atmosphere. Blake and Murphy are like, okay, well, everybody walks down to the ring. Let's play a game of leapfrog down here. Like what? And I love how they won the tag team titles off of the Lucha Dragons, and then they really came on the scene because I feel like up until then they were just really jobbing. Sometimes having competent outings, but never really winning, never really standing out. They get this opportunity, they knock the freaking door down, and they just carve their spot. These guys, it's really disappointing to me that they do not get the credit they deserve. And I think it's a travesty because I think these guys, in the eyes of the people, because this is the underrated talent of the year category, are the lost gem, the forgotten gem of the tag team division. Because I
Yep.
think while everybody is looking at the mechanics, and admittedly, like guys like me looking at Jordan and Gable,
And I
we
will say,
cannot.
I do feel
Yeah,
like the London crowd appreciated them because I feel like behind Jordan and Gable, who were just by far the most over team ever in London, I do feel like the team that got the most reactions from the London crowd was Blake and Murphy. And that's despite having the vaudevillains in the match who were really a major fan favorite at one point.
yeah, yeah. So at least it's nice to know that one place recognizes the value of Blake and Murphy, but unfortunately not enough to get out of the classification of underrated.
That's right. So who's your underrated talent of the year? And when can we start talking about how much I agree with you?
Well, right now, actually, because my underrated talent of the year is Baron Corbin.
Thank you.
Oh my God, Internet, I love you, but sometimes you really disappoint me. And honestly, you can thank Ashton for me making this pick because I feel like one of these years when Corey Graves is still actively competing, we probably had him in this category
Yep.
because people were always talking the piss out of Corey Graves when you and I thought he was brilliant. And now we're here again, but this time Baron Corbin. You know what really bothers me is that even if you had problems with Baron Corbin initially, which I can understand, nobody's perfect when they first come in, you can tell Baron Corbin's improved.
Yeah.
I've even called him, and I say it affectionately, not even to put him down, a more articulate Scott Steiner. Do you know how amazing that is? Like, that's incredible. The guy has a great look. To me, he's a guy, and I know people aren't going to want to hear it because I think people, and I don't say this insultingly, but I think a lot of people in this day and age associate good wrestling with how many moves you can do and the spots.
Yeah,
But
that's all you hear about Baron is that he only has one or two moves, or he only does, he only does punches and clotheslines, and then he has the end of days, and that's all he does. But really, even if that was true, which it isn't, because we've seen him pull other moves out of his arsenal, but even if it was true, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter how many moves you do. What really matters is the story you tell with the moves that you do use.
exactly. What is it I've been saying lately? Anybody can do moves. It takes a special performer to do moves with meaning. And
Yeah.
I think Corbin, everything he does, there's no wasted motion
And
that's
that's
taken
the
away from
thing
Baron
too, is
Corbin.
like if I was Baron Corbin, I would probably only use punches and clothesline too, because it just so happens that he throws the best punches in the freaking WWE.
He does. And here's the thing too, because I'm already starting to see this criticism creep up with Elias Sampson. Like, you're a heel. You're not supposed to have a flashy move set anyway.
Yeah, and that's another one too, is like people want everybody to be able to do suicide dives and super kicks. And it's just I don't necessarily have a problem with some people doing it. Like you look at the Usos and Sami Zayn and Neville and that kind of stuff, and those are the right kinds of people to do that kind of stuff. But Baron Corbin, why should he put any more effort into winning a match than he has to?
I mean, look at the man.
Exactly. Like
I would
that's what I'm
almost
saying though. Like if you were Baron Corbin, okay, put yourself into his shoes, not the performer, the character. Put yourself into his shoes. If you could win every match by just punching and clotheslining people and then using your amazing finisher, why would you want to change anything unless you absolutely had to?
I mean, to me, I'm just going to call it like I see it. People that want everybody, even the really big guys, to have this flashy moveset. It's people like you that are the reason Brock Lesnar tried to go to the top rope at WrestleMania 19, and we all know how well that worked out.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
you
like
don't have.
it's like if you're playing a fighting game and you have one move that you can just spam over and over and over again and win 80% of your matches, or you can actually try really, really hard. You can use your entire move set. You can really learn the ins and outs of this game, and you can go in and out and play footsies like I was referring to earlier and all that kind of stuff with your opponent and win 85% of your matches. Which one do you think you're going to do?
And don't you lie. And that's just it. And look, I'm just gonna be again very frank. I said that I was gonna make a lot of inflammatory comments in this video, and I'm hoping people can forgive me here. But we've got to remember where we are. We're in the WWE, and in the WWE, I'm gonna be honest. Baron Corbin has a far greater likelihood of winning a world championship on the main roster than Sami Zayn does. Because, and I'm only saying
Yeah.
that because we're talking about moveset and everything. Well, Sami Zayn has a very diverse moveset compared to Baron Corbin. But I can tell
I think
you,
Sammy's a bad example. Maybe Neville is a better example because
Nev,
Sammy
well, yeah,
Sammy has that legit connection with the crowd.
he
Although
does. He
so
does.
does Neville, so maybe he's a bad example too.
But still, I would agree with you, though, on Neville as well. Even though they have that connection with the crowd. Again, I said, remember where we are. It's
Yeah.
WWE, and Vince still
Yep.
has his finger on the pulse.
Well,
Baron Corbin is that
I don't know
star.
about finger on the pulse is the right word to use.
Well, I mean, control of the reins, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. He still
Yeah,
has his pencil on the book.
guiding the ship straight towards the iceberg. But, Baron Corbin to me,
Sup Titanic, how you doing?
Baron Corbin to me screams star. I think even it was you, Ashton, that originally said, and then I co-signed onto it because it just made so much sense, that had that Brock Lesnar vibe that,
Oh
like,
yeah.
he is that, what did we call him, that attraction. That's what I think that's what I said. He transcends being a performer to me. Baron Corbin's the type of guy with the moveset and the look. He transcends being a performer, and if he's used right, he can be an attraction.
Yep.
And the idea that you and me and maybe a few other people see it, but not really like the vast majority of like the internet or just really wrestling fans in general don't see it, to me is so disheartening because Baron Corbin, I think, has improved so much this year. He was already good to me coming in, just the way he was booked,
Yep.
and just it seems like he can't do anything right. And let me tell you something too. Now that I'm thinking about underrated matches of the year, my runner-up probably would have been Joe Corbin from Brooklyn because everybody crapped on that match. I thought it was excellent. I thought that was a great outing from Corbin and Joe.
I
But
thought Corbin and Cruz was a really good match too in London.
yeah, I know you did because yeah,
And
when
there
we were
was
watching it back,
no
yeah,
there was no like veteran talent there to quote unquote carry Baron Corbin to a great match. And I mean, we've seen a bunch of Apollo Crews matches so far in NXT, and it's not clicked for him yet. So it's not like you can say he carried anyone to a match. If anything, Corbin carried him to that match.
exactly. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with people. I mean, I really am very excited for what I really believe is going to be, the Bauer Itami program in 2016 when Itami comes
Oh,
back.
I hope so.
But I'll tell you what, if Corbin were to beat Bauer for the NXT Championship, I would not mind that one bit at
Yep.
all. I feel like he is primed to take that next step.
And that's the thing too, is like we really, I feel like NXT, and this is such a weird thing to say about anything related to WWE, but I kind of feel like NXT is almost lacking in homegrown talent. Like you've got Hideo and Sammy and Neville and Cruz and Balor, and Owens, all these indie guys coming in that had these established names beforehand. Who has NXT really created? Well, Bray Wyatt, Rusev,
Right.
and now Baron Corbin is the next guy in that lineage.
Yeah, Baron freaking Corbin. And they have this little running theme on Breaking Ground where like Baron Corbin, I don't know if irritated is the right word, but he really wants to get called up. He really wants to
Yep.
take that next level. And to me, I don't know if that's legit or if that's just, for the character because he thinks he's better than everybody. Whatever it is, I don't blame him. I think he's got all the pieces in play. I still think, him spending more time in NXT could never hurt. But I just wish he got more love from people because this guy's just wonderful. And the idea that people just don't like him, maybe he's doing his job because, again, I can't emphasize enough, he's a heel. He's not going to do a 450. Kindly get over it. So that's my underrated talent of the year.
I love that you actually said kindly. Great adverb, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, now let's talk about. I'm going to let you go first for this one. Jobber of the year.
Honestly, this is a difficult category. You can almost accuse me of shoehorning this in, and it wouldn't be that far off because I really couldn't think of that many people, to be fair. I put Heath Slater.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Cesaro.
Oh, God, yeah, that would have also fit, but it would have broken my heart too much, I think, to think.
You had him as your jobber of the year last year, I think.
Yeah, you know what? But I really thought he was going to turn it around, though, and then to have the same thing this year, it's like, the pain. But the funny thing is, it's actually appropriate that I pick Heath Slater because as we're doing this video, his stock, I think, has seen a little bit of an uptick. Apparently, he did the sit-down interview with Michael Cole. He came in the top 10 for Superstar of the Year in terms of votes.
What?
He came in number 8, dude. Came in number 8. He's had this whole Twitter movement, push Heath Slater, play my music, one man band.
So
So
is this like a Zack Ryder kind
yeah,
of grassroots kind of thing?
yeah.
Wow, I hadn't
He,
heard of it. I guess if it's not on YouTube, I don't know about it, or Reddit, YouTube or Reddit.
Yeah, I mean, it was on YouTube. I personally watched it. I thought Slater did great. I mean, he had the little segment on Raw with everybody. Of course, he got knocked out by the Big Show, but then he got the Fallout segment. He got a Fallout segment where he had an ice pack, and he said, "You tell Michael Cole I need part two of that interview," because that sit-down interview got cut off, and you could hear Michael Cole. This is how funny Slater is, because Slater was just going, "Hey, Michael Cole, get back here! I wasn't finished," and Michael Cole was dying. You could hear him laughing in the background, and like. So yeah, Slater's had a very intriguing 2015 between answering or trying to answer the U.S. Open Challenge, always getting, bitched out by like a Rusev or a New Day, whatever, having YouTube videos where he's trying to answer, but they either don't play his music or some mishap happens. So I actually think 2016 could be kinder to Heath Slater. Not saying anything significant's going to happen, but maybe he'll finally get his U.S. title match. But for now, yeah, I say he's Jobber of the Year, both in the sense that, like, he doesn't really win, but, at least he actually has a presence to be able to fit this category. So, yeah, I pick Slater.
That's awesome, dude.
Who's your Jobber of the Year?
I kept it simple. My job of the year, I went with Blue Pants
I like that. I like that. That's clever.
because she is the very definition of a jobber. They literally only bring her in to lose matches. I think she has one win in her career, and I believe that was over Carmella, right?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
correct.
And then that was just kind of a revenge thing because she already lost to Carmella like twice before that. But yeah, she was pretty much only ever brought in to lose, except for the fact that they knew how insanely over she was, so they decided to use her as the vaudevillain's answer to Alexa Bliss at Brooklyn, and that was kind of her crown jewel moment. And it was a great moment. I'm really glad that she kind of got to have that, and Leva Bates still wrestles the Indies, so the fact that she had this gig as Blue Pants raised her stock, and she's probably making more money on the Indies now and selling Blue Pants t-shirts and making money off of that. So she's in great shape right now.
Absolutely. I love how both of our Jobbers of the Year have, well, I mean, Leibovitz especially doing very well, and Heath Slater recently seeing an uptick, so maybe it's not so bad being a Jobber in this case, being a member of the JOB squad. Yeah, I love your pick, man. Very straightforward. Nothing much I can really add, so you want to move on to Promo of the Year?
Promo of the year, I got to tell you, I do have a promo of the year in mind. I just don't remember when it's from.
Okay.
The one that I really wanted to highlight was the Seth Rollins promo that he cut on the Authority. It was Triple H and Kane and Stephanie and both J&J security guys in the ring all at the same time. And Rollins cut this epic rant about how he doesn't need anyone, he doesn't need help, he doesn't need some 7 foot piece of crap, and all this stuff, and how he was going to prove to everyone that he could win by himself at the pay-per-view that was coming up. I want to say it was Money in the Bank, but I don't know for sure.
It was leading to the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I'm guessing it was probably the night after Chamber or
Yeah,
whatever.
that sounds
Uh,
about right.
Yeah, and I think Chamber, it used to be in February, but I think that's Fastlane
I think
now.
it
So I
was
think,
in June this year.
yeah, June this year, you're right. So somewhere around there. And
Yeah,
yeah,
because that one when we only had 2 weeks worth of television between each pay-per-view for like 3 pay-per-views straight.
yeah, it was. And I'm actually really glad you picked out this promo because this promo was a gem. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're dusting it off and talking about it here.
Rollins had a lot of good promos, but I feel like this was the only one that had me like sitting up in my chair and like, wow, like this is great.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job creating a legitimate tension between him and the Authority. He had a great moment where he asserted himself. He's like, well, screw this. I know how talented I am. I don't need any of this crap.
Yeah.
And I love this promo too, dude. I'm really glad you highlighted it for your awards. I think Rollins killed it here. I think even Reigns kind of carried his load to really help Rollins, giving him all that fodder to be angry because he's like, dude, you're pretty much the worst WWE champion ever. And Rollins just blew a gasket and he went off. It was phenomenal work, and yeah, just really glad you thought to pick that one, dude.
Yeah. All right, now let's talk about your promo of the year. I already know what it is, so you don't have to, make it seem like a big surprise. You can just tell our audience.
Yeah, I'm gonna just be straightforward with you guys. I got cheeky with this one. Kevin Owens puts a hole in Florida's Full Sail. I love this one.
The whole thing.
This
The whole
this
thing, like even up to the point where he like got up on top of the ladder and everything.
yeah. If you guys don't know, like where I'm going with this, this was, I believe, was this the go home show before Brooklyn, or was this like week
Ah,
two?
it was. You know what? It was either the go home show or the week before the go home show.
Right, but just to really put it in context, this was the promo where Kevin Owens pretty much tore Full Sail a new one because they were chanting "Brooklyn sucks," and I guess that prompted Kevin Owens to go on this tangent. It must have been the go home show because they've been
I
biting their tongue
loved
for
it too because the
weeks.
way he opened it up, he was just like, I actually wanted to address that. Like, oh God, he's pointing his gun at us now.
Exactly. And you know what? I mean, again, you guys know my personality when I talk about wrestling. I'm really quite a horrible person, and I really enjoyed laughing at Full Sail here because I'm like, you know what, Kevin, as a father and fellow human being
Damn it.
like myself, as a father, damn it, you know, you have every right to say it. I mean, who the hell are these losers to tell you that Brooklyn sucks? Brooklyn, where you really carved your fame and your legacy in ROH. Oh, Brooklyn sucks, and then Kevin Owens let them have it. And here's the thing. I think it was justified. And this is me being completely serious, not having fun
Yeah,
at anybody's
because the
expense.
Full Sail crowd was acting like a bunch of spoiled brats.
You claim that you want to support, and this is actually
And this
along
is
the
what
lines
he
of Kevin Owens
said
said.
too. Yeah, I knew you
Yeah,
were gonna go there. Yes.
you claim to support a brand in NXT, like, oh, these guys are wonderful. Oh, this is great. This is what WWE needs. They blow up. They're able to tour. They're able to go places. And because it isn't your best kept secret anymore, because it isn't yours anymore, you have a problem. I am so glad
You and
that
I are
Kevin.
so opposite to that too, because we love Lucha Underground and we kind of enjoy the fact that it kind of is like our best kept secret, but like we want to share it with the world.
We do, like, what is wrong with you people? Like, I am so glad that Kevin Owens used the pulpit of just a live
You and I are like the
microphone.
ultimate Lucha Underground evangelists.
Yes, yeah, door to door, baby, door to door.
Right.
And Kevin Owens, he grabs the mic and was like, you know what? I have the mic. It's my time. I'm gonna have my blow up. I'm gonna have it, and he has it. And here's the thing, too. I've said this a
You
few times over
people are the John Cena of wrestling crowds.
and I've said this before too, and I think it bears repeating. In my personal opinion, and I'm sure it's going to be an oft contended point because I think I'm going to say this a lot over the next few years. To me, Kevin Owens is the closest thing to a CM Punk that we're going to have since CM Punk left. When
You know
he is
what,
a
John? I'm glad you said that because I actually wanted to bring that up earlier when you were talking about Sandow. I think if anyone has that kind of potential, because Sandow, what makes him great is his speaking ability.
yes, very
And
eloquent.
now, like the fact that they've been doing with him what they've been doing with him for so long, he might have enough pent up anger to go on a CM Punk run.
I would just love for them to give him the time and the platform to do it. Like, even if they just gave him a match and, like, maybe he would try and hijack the show and get a microphone, just any way
And
he could
that's
go.
what led to Punk doing the big Vegas shoot promo, worked shoot, let's be real. Was just these years and years of being screwed with by WWE and not getting what he felt he deserved. Sandow has that kind of pent up aggression now. Like I feel like Kevin Owens is being given pretty much everything that he could ever want, except
Yeah,
maybe he'll pull a CM Punk and be like, no, I want to main event WrestleMania. But other than that, like he literally debuted on NXT. 2 months later, to the day, which he would emphasize, he won the NXT title. He held it for 4 months, and he only dropped it after having debuted on the main roster and beating John Cena in his first match. And even now, less than a year after debuting on the main roster, he's the Intercontinental Champion. So he's having a pretty good go. He's just really good at finding things to bitch about. Whereas Sandow has that ammunition now.
I think I should qualify my statement when I say like he's akin to CM Punk and the closest thing we have since his life. I always like whenever Punk spoke, I listened, and
Yeah.
I feel like Kevin Owens has that quality because whenever he speaks, I stand at attention. And can I just say too, it's so refreshing to have a talent like that whose name isn't Paul Heyman because I love Paul to death, but it's really nice to have an actual wrestler that's going to back up his words, cut promos like that where they have my active attention. Because my God, is Kevin Owens wonderful. And this promo where he just takes Full Sail to task. Like, how dare you people, you hypocrites. You celebrate one thing and then you denigrate it the moment that it goes outside of your backyard to explore the world. How dare you? And he just smacks him down. And it
Yep.
is glorious and righteous in its anger. I freaking
Absolutely.
love this promo.
Yeah. Kevin Owens is an amazing heel, but you know what else, John?
What's that?
Our next award is Heel of the Year.
Oh my God.
So how smooth of a transition is this? Is Kevin Owens your heel of the year?
I feel like I should slap myself. No, he is not. And I am a Kevin Owens mark, but I had to give it to this guy because the 180 was just brilliant. My heel of the year is Tetsuya Naito.
Oh, we both have him then. Yes, yes, yes,
You
yes,
have
yes.
to.
I do.
You
I
have
do.
to.
Yeah.
You know, just
Naito! Like, he opened the year with girls in the crowd literally fangirling over his matches. And within like 5 months, he is the biggest asshole in the entire company.
it's just because here's the thing. I love Kevin Owens to death, but let's be 100% real here, you and me, because we both pick Naito, and I think you may be the only one that understands me here. We've seen the flavor that Kevin Owens is before.
Yeah.
I feel like Naito is very distinct. I haven't really seen
That's the
many
thing
heels
too,
like
is we've
Naito.
seen what full blown heel Kevin Steen could do.
Yeah, yeah,
And Kevin Owens is a watered down version of that.
right. This Naito though,
Yeah.
like the idea, how just G1 climax.
Yeah, I
Watching
was even
him.
like, dude, his match with Tanahashi might
Oh,
not have been a match of the year contender, but it was still one of my personal favorite matches of the
now
year.
that was the one where he won. Well, yeah, you said G1 climax, so that was the
Yeah,
one that he won. Yeah,
the neck breaker onto the table and just the constant barrage of offense targeting the neck, leading up to what we understood as the debut of, but actually it happened on a previous show. But his new finisher, that standing Shiranui.
yeah, that Shiranui finisher, which is amazing, dude. The in-ring psychology in terms of like again making the moves matter, the character work. Oh my god!
Yeah,
From the entrance where he's wearing this suit and like this Doctor Doom mask and how painstakingly slow he is to undress, and then just when he like the apathy that he has about certain things, like oh I could pursue you, but I'm not going to. Or my personal favorite, oh I could break up the count and continue my match for the team, but I don't really feel like it.
yes,
Like dude, you are such a committed asshole. Like, I love you.
yeah,
It's amazing, dude.
yeah.
Amazing.
And honestly, I know that this is going to sound really strange coming from me, but I feel like the addition of facial hair for him, like the evil goatee, was such a welcome addition because he doesn't look so generic anymore.
He really doesn't. It's
Like
amazing.
before, I know that we were very new to New Japan, but for Wrestle Kingdom 9, I really did feel like he was just a poor man's version of Tanahashi at that point.
I completely agree. I feel like this heel turn not only gave him his own distinct identity, but I almost find it just a miracle
Yeah.
how quickly he was able to shed that like that boy band kind of image, you know,
Yep.
because we always talk about like the J-pop and things like that. Like that's where face Naito to me, like he looked like he would have been fronting like a J-pop band or something.
Yep.
And yeah, this heel turn and just
And
being
the girls in the crowd thought so too. Naito!
oh my god, that bitch. You know, then he becomes you know, and just to really, and this is going to be the last word I want to say on the matter because I know we still have so many awards to get to yet. The last thing I want to say about this heel of the year for Naito, his heel turn was so good and he's executed so flawlessly. I am actually craving this man to be IWGP Heavyweight Champion. I
Yeah.
was heartbroken when Tanahashi won the tournament. I'm not gonna lie to people.
Yeah.
They really because we pretty much you know that we always have that hashtag like oh made it through to the end this that and the other. We did more or less the entire G1 climax. New Japan failed before we did.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm still hung up about that.
You really are. That's hilarious to me.
But I wanted Naito to win the tournament. I got so invested in him and so invested in the tournament, and then when Tanahashi won, I'm just like, oh Naito, you didn't go far enough with the neck. Like that was my immediate first thought. This guy is an amazing heel, dude. I love him to death.
Yeah. Yeah. Naito is incredible, but what I do want to do is I never expected us to go this long. We've gone over 2 hours and we are halfway through.
Right. So you want to break this up into another part?
You know what? Yeah. Tell you what. Let's do. Let's just do two more awards. Let's get up to because we have a face of the year and then a main roster rookie of the year, and we'll cut it off after that.
Okay.
Because then after once we do that, because we already have our first 9 are the negative ones, right? And that leaves us with 45. 45 and half is 22, 23-ish. So that would be like around. Oh no, I guess it would go to 31. Do you want to just kind of take it and I don't know. What do you want to do about it, John? Because this is
Uh,
really long. We've gone for 2 hours and we're not even halfway done with these positive awards. We're
I
halfway
know.
done. We're halfway done with the awards in general, but the positive awards we haven't gotten halfway through yet.
Maybe. I mean, we're already been talking about it this much. Maybe this would be a good cutting off point, and we do that, and then we come back, and I guess we
All right,
resume.
guys. So that was our heel of the year. On our next chunk of this, good God, this got long. Um, we'll be talking about face of the year, main roster rookie of the year, etc. But until then, hopefully we haven't lost you by now. I'm sure people are going to listen to this in chunks rather than trying to listen to the entire thing in one sitting, and I would recommend it as well.